Am I the asshole for telling my mother about what my sister was doing with her friends causing her to get kicked out? Hey everyone, I'm posting this because I feel guilty and want some outside opinions. We live in the UK, I, 19M, don't live with my mother Stacy, 39F, and my sister Jessica, 18F, but they live together in Mum's flat. I have my own place. Jessica does not pay rent or anything. Some context. My mother is currently going through some messy legal drama involving the custody of me and Jessica's sister Claire, 2F, who is asthmatic. This is important, due to her ex-BF, Claire's father, lying about her doing alcohol and drugs. She's currently staying in a monitored unit until next year so the socials can confirm she is all good. On to the story. I came to the flat to keep Jessica company as she wasn't apparently coping well with living alone. The first thing I noticed when I walked in was a boy I never met in Jessica's bedroom, sleeping in her bed. I was shocked but let it slide because I literally only just walked in the door after a 2-hour journey and he went home later anyways. The next day, Mum called and asked Jessica to let her know if people are staying over. She didn't know the boy was there. She's just feeling uneasy or something or if they're in the house, and Jessica decided to argue with her over it instead of just accepting and apologizing. So, after Mum hung up, I lectured her before we went on with our day. A little while later, we planned to go to a club and Jessica invited 2 friends over for pre-game drinks, without telling Mum. I didn't know this, and they were hanging out in her room whilst I was playing games in the lounge. I eventually bought my entry ticket and went to Jessica's room to tell her when I noticed a massive cloud of weed smoke hanging in the air of the room. I was in disbelief and pretty much immediately called Mum to inform her and she went mental. Jessica decided to argue with Mum about kicking the friends out, so Mum eventually broke and told Jessica that she's kicking her out and she's going to have to stay by our father, who isn't Claire's father BTW. Jessica is fuming and isn't talking to me and I feel really bad, but I honestly was gonna go ballistic at her friends myself for the lack of respect, but I still wanna know if I did anything wrong. Stories number 2. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my husband the cash I got back from a present he asked me to return? For context, my husband, 46 years old, got into a terrible cycling accident last year. He suffered from a punctured lung requiring a chest tube, 3 broken ribs and a broken clavicle. He spent 5 days in the hospital. It was really scary for all of us. He is finally back on the bike and training again. The kids and I worked really hard for his birthday present this year. We wanted it to be something to recognize how proud we were of him getting back on the bike. It's important to mention that when asked what he wanted for his birthday, he would tell us, "I don't need anything." By we I mean me, because our kids are both under the age of 7, got him a Garmin Varia, which is a bike radar and camera that provides a taillight, visibility to approaching cars and notifies the biker of approaching cars. Total cost was $500. We gave it to him last night and it was pretty obvious he did not want it. This morning he asked me to return it. I'm pissed about his ungrateful reaction, but that's another conversation. Later on today he informs me that he will just take the $500 cash amount as his present instead. I told him hell no. He doesn't want the gift, fine, but I'm not giving him the money, especially with how ungrateful he was for the original gift. He's saying I'm the asshole, and that it's his gift and therefore his cash. So am I the asshole for not giving my husband the cash that I'm getting back for returning the gift he didn't like? Update. I'm not sure if this is how you're supposed to post an update. I had no idea my post was going to get this much attention. Thank you everyone for your advice. I want to clarify a few things. This present was not a way to encourage him back on the bike. He has been riding again for several months now, 20 miles at least 3 days a week. He is training for a triathlon. I asked my husband if the present triggered him or brought back any traumatic memories. He told me it did not. His reason for not wanting it is that he doesn't want all the extra electronics on his bike. He did apologize for his reaction and thanked the kids and I for the thoughtful gift, but explained that he would never use it. Not that it's really anyone's business, but we have a joint account and then we each have our own separate bank accounts. It works for us. I did not give him the money. We agreed to use some of the money to set up a fire pit in our backyard, which is something he has wanted to do for a while. The rest of the cash is going back in my wallet. I got the Garmin Varia RCD 715 with rear view bike camera for $399, and then I got the Garmin Edge 130 Plus compact bike computer to go with it, which was $120 for those of you questioning if I'm telling the truth about the price. That's all folks. I wish he kept the gift for his safety, but I can't force him to use it. I've learned my lesson and I will no longer be buying surprise gifts for him. If he doesn't tell me exactly what he wants, he will get a gift card. Stories number 3. GF wants kids, I'm not ready. How do I get her to understand? 24M and 23F. 24M, and GF, 23F, are at two completely ends of the topic of kids. We have been together for around 2 years, at this point. She is ready, as is she wants a kid tomorrow. She brings it up in passing. Every time we see kids' clothing, while out shopping, she brings up the topic every 1 to 2 weeks, which I'm sick and tired of. Her reasons as to why she wants kids, well, it's a bit personal. But long story short, she is 9 years younger than her older sister. The focus was never really on her. She did not have the best childhood, and wants to correct what her parents couldn't. She wants to be a young mom. And 30, in her mind, is ancient. Now. I want kids. I want kids with her. I'm just not ready. I've tried to talk with her about this, but seemingly to no avail. I've recently just got back into studying. Which means I will graduate when I'm 27, a much better age for kids, if you ask me. My reasons as to I don't want kids right now, mostly stems from my own childhood. My parents never had any money. I never felt like I was missing out or needed something, however my parents always somehow made me feel like a burden, economically speaking. Later in my teenage years, I developed a bad gambling addiction, that I'm still battling today. I never want to make my kids feel like they are a burden. I want my kids to feel mostly carefree, if not completely. Financially we are just getting by. Our budget is not set up for savings, which fucks with my head, and we can't go and splurge whenever we feel like it. In other words, we only buy need-to-haves, never nice-to-haves. Emotionally, I want to be in control of my own life before committing to a child. I want to be able to control my gambling urges. I want to be in our own house. I want to live somewhat comfortably, and not stress about income and expenses. Finally, I don't see 27 to 30 as ancient. I see it as the perfect age to get kids. Sorry for any typos. And thanks for reading my ramblings. Thank you in advance. Stories number 4. Am I the asshole for telling my sister to get a babysitter to watch her kids because I can't? My sister, 26F, thinks people are obligated to do stuff for her. If people don't, then she thinks they're selfish. People have their own lives and she wants people to help her. Some of our family can't, so she's mad at everyone. My sister called asking me if I, 29F, can take her kids, 3M, 7F, 1M, for some days, well 2 days, because her job is making her work earlier than her usual schedule, so they want her to work during the holidays as well. I already had plans. My husband and I were going to New York with our daughter to spend time with his family. She didn't know I was going on the trip though, so that's why she asked. We paid a lot of money for the plane tickets. I acknowledged that my sister would have to work on the holidays, which was sad. She just had a baby a year ago with her boyfriend, but he's a deadbeat and doesn't want to watch his own child. Some jobs just don't care. I told her I was sorry, but I couldn't do anything because I would be leaving tomorrow at night. She was having a meltdown. Her job said during Thanksgiving she will be off, but they changed their mind since they're short on employees. The kids have their father, 43M, is not supposed to be around them since my sister was in a DV relationship with her. I then told her to call her dad, but he was out the country, so she didn't have anyone to watch them. I already told her why I couldn't. She told me why do I think my husband's family was more important than her kids. I didn't like how she was trying to flip the whole thing on me. I told her since no one is available for her, ask a friend or get a babysitter. Stories number 5. Advice to young women. If you marry, do not change your last name unless you do not mind submersing your identity into another's. In my experience, it's a huge pain in the butt, especially if you divorce later. I am presently on the phone on hold because my name changed years ago and now, I have hit a snag on government information to obtain benefits owed to me, earned by me. Medical records, college transcripts, employment records, awards received under his name do not change on their own either. And you are not your spouse's property, you are an individual. The only issue might be if you have kids and deciding whose surname they take. Just don't. Imagine getting an engineering degree with his name, getting a divorce, and your degree ends in his surname. Not yours, for who you still owe on loans, not him. Exception, Your surname sucks and his is cool and you can keep that name even if you remarry. Stories number 6. I've been making food for a girl I like, turns out she's been throwing it all out. I have nowhere else to talk about this so I'm coming to Reddit. 21 am in college, and there's this girl that I'm sort of head over heels for. We have a couple classes together and I know some of her friends so we see each other and hang out a lot. I thought there was something between us but I guess I was wrong. I knew she'd been going through a tough time with some family issues lately and I thought she might appreciate not having to worry about cooking while she's worried about all of that, so I've been making her some meals and giving them to her when I see her, usually after class. Food isn't necessarily my love language, I just like to make sure the people I care about are happy and fed. Well, I was catching up with some of our mutual friends, a couple of whom live with her, and they told me that she either usually throws out the food or gives it to her roommates. I don't think she's eaten anything I've made for her. She always says, "Oh, you didn't have to do that," all sheepishly when I give her the meals I made. I just figured she was being bashful. I wish she would have just told me to stop so I could have saved some time and energy. I don't know, I'm just upset. I'm not sure where I stand with her now. Edit. Some context. I said in a comment that people said I should add to the original post. Her friends encouraged it. I'm very close friends with many people in her close circle and they knew what I was doing, they said it was sweet. I understand now that it was kinda weird and I probably should have stopped. But I would also say that we're friends rather than acquaintances, we've hung out one-on-one in the past, which she initiated. I think she just might see me as a friend, which is totally fine, and the message about not just giving people food is 100% heard on my end. I just hated to think that she was stressed and going hungry. She's confided to me in the past that she struggles to make time to eat when under stress. Stories number 7. I laughed at my sister, Tragedy, and now I'm uninvited to the baby shower I'm planning. My sister is due after in early January and we're planning her baby shower for early December. She decided she wanted to use my mother's maiden name, Rafferty, as her daughter's name. Not a tragedy itself and I guess it works as a unique name. But yesterday I texted my sister that I needed to get the custom items with my niece's name ordered ASAP so they arrive in time for the shower. My sister then let me know they're going with an alternative spelling of Rafferty. I texted back, an alternative spelling, of our mother's maiden name. My sister wants to spell it Rafferty. So I sent back a bunch of laughing emojis and she asked what's so funny. I tried to explain that no one will pronounce that as Rafferty and she'll probably get plenty of the same mispronunciations. She told me I was being ridiculous. I texted back, my poor niece, little Miss Farty Ray. I was uninvited to the shower and my mom told me today my sister doesn't want me as the godmother anymore. But, like, Rafferty is really bad, isn't it? Someone needs to tell her, right? Stories number 8. No one in my 41F family, 42M, 11M, 7M, wants to do anything, ever. It's making me miserable. I can't get anyone in my immediate family on board to do anything, ever. I approach things with enthusiasm, I give plenty of warning. For the kids, it's any time we leave the house. For the husband, it's any time I want to do something aside from our normal chores. Today for the kids it was grocery shopping, which admittedly isn't tons of fun, but it's also for soccer practice, scouts, birthday parties. They just don't want to agree to anything. They groan and flop on the floor, or just ignore me until I shout. When we get to where we're going they won't open their car door, take off their seatbelt, they just sit there, usually they've got books they're reading. For the husband, he also seems to prefer all of our plans to be nothing. He does not want to go do things together, as a couple or a family. Restaurants, events, activities, he's uninterested. If I ask him to go somewhere with me he usually won't say no, but he'll try to talk me out of it and then drag his feet until a no is the only option. I try to do things on my own, but that also stresses me because I know it's not actually good for their developing brains to refuse to do anything. And when I'm gone, husband's approach is to mostly let them do nothing. To clarify, they don't engage in any structured things or hobbies. They watch Minecraft videos and play the Switch. They do read a lot. They don't socialize, they aren't active, they aren't playing games. They have unstructured stuffy play time, which is great as long as it's not the only thing, or screen time. Plus, the things I'm doing are things they really should come to. I do an activity, think bowling or arcade in a brewery, every couple of weeks with a big group of families. My kids are friends with the kids there, they still just refuse to come. I have made them come along occasionally, and eldest even told me it was the best night of his life once. And the next time it was time to go he threw himself on the ground and groaned in agony. I don't know what to do. It's been too long of living like this and I just feel so exhausted. I think it's taking a huge toll on my mental health. Everything I want to enjoy turns into a terrible ordeal. Stories number 9. Am I the asshole for accidentally revealing my boss's affair during the office Secret Santa exchange? I, 29F, work in a small office where we always do a Secret Santa-like gift exchange. This year, I drew my boss, Rachel, 42F. She's always been the sweetest to me, so I wanted to make her gift thoughtful. Rachel frequently mentions her husband and their shared love of hiking, so I got her a fancy pair of hiking boots and a gift card to an outdoor gear store. During the exchange, she opened my gift, and I made a joking comment like, "Hopefully your husband doesn't already have these boots, or you two can match." Her face turned bright red, and the room got super awkward. I thought maybe she just didn't like the gift. But later that day, one of my co-workers, Dan, 34M, who I'm casually friendly with, pulled me aside and said, "You know Rachel isn't hiking with her husband, right?" I had no idea what he was talking about, so he spilled that Rachel's been having an affair with Steve, 45M, another manager in our office, and they've been sneaking away on hiking trips together. Apparently, it's been an open secret among a few co-workers, but I genuinely had no clue. My match with your husband joke unintentionally exposed their whole situation because now Rachel thinks someone told me about the affair and that I was making a passive-aggressive dig. The fallout has been insane. Rachel has been cold toward me ever since, and Steve won't even make eye contact. Meanwhile, the office gossip has exploded, and I feel like everyone's whispering about it. A couple of co-workers said I should have been more careful with my joke, but others think Rachel and Steve brought this on themselves. Am I the asshole for unknowingly exposing my boss's affair with an innocent Secret Santa comment? Stories number 10. Would I be the asshole here if I called out my MIL for literally putting my husband last? My husband has been having mental health issues since the accident. He has been keeping his mom updated but she lives across the country. When her husband was a kid, he had a blood clot that damaged his eye. His mother knows this medical history well, so OOP really wants MIL here to help in this scary time. BIL was around for 2 days, but then lost interest and left. MIL makes plans to come to see OOP's husband and he perks up visibly. OOP talks to her husband's aunt about it, but doesn't get specific details. Suddenly, MIL says she's driving back from her sister's house to visit BIL, but hasn't come to see husband yet, which makes OOP and her husband sad. It turns out the airport MIL came in from is closer to my husband, but she chose to drive 2.5 hours to visit her sister and other son/3-year-old granddaughter instead. MIL says she would see him later, but then blows him off hours later, saying she's tired. My husband says it's okay but breaks down crying, which is out of character. OOP wonders if she would I be the asshole here if she tells MIL she's putting her husband last by not coming to visit him when he's not doing well. Says that BIL is the favored child because my husband got too much attention as a kid due to the injury/being sick and their mom tried to make up for it. BIL is also a drug addict and his girlfriend was as well. They both lost custody of their daughter. BIL's aunt, MIL's sister, has temporary custody right now. She also lost her own mother, so she's struggling with balancing her feelings with what her husband needs at the moment. AIW for wanting to punch my BL in the face. Explains BL's history of drug use, narcissism, manipulation and mental health issues. In the past, he has been involved with several women who died due to overdoses and according to OOP BIL is to blame. BIL also got his current girlfriend addicted to drugs and they lost custody of their daughter because she overdosed. She survived, editor's note. It's unclear if the she is the daughter or the girlfriend here. OOP says she has a permanent neurological disorder due to a fight due to an injury he gave her due to a headbutt where he cracked her head open. She says BL takes advantage of MIL by getting her to give him money, free rent, plane tickets, etc. BL claims my husband is favored because he was sick as a child while BIL was a second child who wasn't wanted though OOP claims it was the opposite. I asks if she's wrong for wanting to punch him because he has been making progress in therapy and reduced his drug use, supposedly getting better with the goal of getting custody of his daughter back. She thinks MIL only went to see BL first, in the previous post, because BIL whined about favoritism or wanting to off himself. She says, I suspect this because when my husband was in the hospital, You could see the dollar signs jumping from my BIL's eyes once he heard there was a brain bleed, but then got angry and left once the hospital said they were sending my husband home and hasn't talked to us since. You buried the lead of this piece of crap headbutting you so hard you have a permanent neurological disorder. I can't understand how you are brave enough to spend 1 minute with him. Would I be the asshole here if I called out my MIL for literally putting my husband last? Yesterday my husband and I waited all day for my MIL to call when she was going to come over to say hi. I had to text her at 1 p.m. because I was starting to get pissed off she hasn't said anything yet, and her response led to me punching a wall without thinking. She said that I was assuming she and her partner, were out to lunch with BIL, and their daughter who they got to have a surprise visitation day. She said after lunch when my niece went home at 3 p.m., she would come see us. I was furious, but whatever. My husband was distraught but again playing it off. Well, eventually around 5:30 p.m. we got a call from my MIL saying she was coming over. Well, finally. We made a plan for her to come pick us up so we could get pizza for dinner, we can't drive, and I laid out a whole idea my husband came up with to get some pizza, go see a movie, and maybe go play some pool afterward because that's a pastime his mother loves. Well, nope, MIL said she needs to return to BIL's house, so she'll be picking us up to get pizza, and then we're gonna go see BIL and SIL afterward. Oh. Of course. So we went with that plan for the sake of not starting an argument. When she showed up, she was nice enough to come up to our apartment and say hi to my dad who lives with us, but wanted to leave right away. The only reason we didn't was because my MIL brought her sister, K60F, who hasn't lived in the area or even visited for 30 years, but came with Mil to see my husband specifically. She sat with my dad asking a bunch of questions, looking through all the hospital paperwork and accident reports, etc. Honestly, stuff his mother should have been doing, but wasn't, and was instead just chatting with my dad and trying to scoot everyone out the door. After a while, we left and got pizza, and MIL took us to BIL's place. We spent 2 hours sitting there talking about BIL and how awful his life is. He quit his job because it sucks, his car is broken again. He wants this and that but can't get it because everyone keeps fighting him, yada yada. Meanwhile, my husband was getting sicker and sicker looking, and Kay and I were constantly bugging him to sit or drink something, or even get ready to go to the hospital because he didn't look good at all and he was starting to get confused by stuff. Huge red flag. Now here's where everything spiraled. Kay suggested that maybe we take my husband home at least because he was starting to sway in his seat and she was guessing, maybe he was just tired. Mysael though, started freaking out saying we need to call an ambulance. See, Mysael had a severe traumatic brain bleed happen years ago due to circumstances. And she is also a super empath. According to her, she could sense something was super wrong and that my husband needed to be seen right away without delay. Now my husband usually would be refusing viciously at this point. He hates hospitals and especially hates ambulances. But he wasn't saying anything, so I knew something was wrong and started making the call. My MIL and BIL seemed maybe a little worried, but they kept playing it off saying he's probably just tired. He probably needs to rest. It wasn't until my husband threw up all over the floor that they got the fucking picture. I sat and handled the phone call while Kay and Mysael tended to my husband. Now I don't know what happened because my back was turned when I was on the phone, but the next second, I heard a wicked loud yelp and then the sound of crashing glass. Then lots of yelling. According to Kay, what happened was Mysael went to hold my husband's head as he was starting to go limp, so they were transferring him to a laying position. And Mysael ended up taking his head and laying it on her lap because their floor is hardwood and she was afraid he'd hit his head. Totally valid worry and I thank her for it. My stupid BL didn't like that though, and without thinking about anyone but himself, grabbed Mysael by the hair, picked her up by it, she's tiny so it's very easy, and threw her into their coffee table. Multiple things happened at once and I can still see it in my mind's eye in slow-mo. First, my husband's head had dropped to the ground, and Kay wasn't close enough to catch him, so he ended up hitting his head. At this point I turned around, and saw SIL in a bloody pile of glass, MIL holding BIL back from trying to attack SIL, while my husband was having a full grand mal seizure on the floor beside them about to get stepped on. Panic doesn't even begin to describe the feeling I had. Even though unfortunately, due to my having epilepsy, I understand and know seizure protocol. I was in a panic noting the time and all that jazz, I didn't even notice the EMTs and police show up. They heard the crash on the phone and assumed to send police as well. The ambulance scooped my husband when his seizure luckily stopped, rushed him to our chosen hospital, and scooped my SIL off with my MIL to go to a separate hospital closer by. The one my husband was brought to is a level 4 trauma center and is better equipped. Kay drove behind us in the ambulance because apparently, she's acting mother now, which at this point I don't even care about anymore. So now my shitty BIL is in the police station and has finally been arrested for his actions. Not sure if my SIL will continue with that as this is not their first rodeo, nor do I know what will happen with my niece now. My MIL is staying with my SIL so she's not alone, but she should really be swapped with Kay, and even Kay thinks so too. I asked Kay what's been going on with MIL, and why lie and pull such a ruse, and she said she has no idea what's going on, but something does seem strange as this is totally outside of MIL's normal behavior. We don't suspect she's using drugs as she has pretty severe heart problems, but something's definitely up. But that doesn't matter at all to me right now. I did end up saying something to my MIL over the phone last night. I as calmly as possible just let her know how my husband has been taking her sudden neglect and told her hopefully this is a wake-up call to stop putting all her time, care, and attention to a wife-beating piece of crap. She's actually his longtime girlfriend, but case still stands. Her response was stuttering and then silence. She's supposed to be here in half an hour but now I don't even know if that's gonna be a thing because supposedly, BIL is going to be released sometime this morning on bail so I assume she'll run off to be with him instead. SIL said no matter what, she'll walk here if she has to. Concerning my husband, he was brought straight past the ER, directly to the ICU, after being shoved through a CT scan. They said he had had a rebleed and it had grown 2 centimeters more than it was before, putting a lot more pressure on his brain, hence the seizure. I knew it was a risk but it's awful to watch your universe convulse uncontrollably. I know my husband watches it happen to me constantly, but it's very surreal being on the other end of the situation. We're currently waiting for any news other than bad news because so far it's been nothing but bad news. And if the bleed doesn't stop they have to fly him to the big city nearby to one of the bigger hospitals to be prepped or surgery. I am freaking the fuck out but no there's nothing I can really do at this point but be here for him and divulge every bit of info anyone might ever need about him. I don't want my husband to die. If he dies I literally won't be able to continue living in this world. So hopefully he lives, and his mother comes to fucking see him. Edit. Forgot to mention MIL originally was only staying in town for 2 days. That second day she was in town was to be our only day with her. The next day she was planning to take BIL and his family to the beach, and then travel up north again for the rest of her stay to be with her other sister. So this trip is to see you line was as horse shit as I thought it was. Now I don't know what her plans are. Would I be the asshole here if I called out my MIL for literally putting my husband last? Hello everyone. I wasn't expecting such a turnout of well-wishers and concerned readers, and I appreciate everyone's comments of concern, advice, and overall support. It has made the time go by, rather than be at a standstill. Now for the update, which will hopefully answer some concerns and questions y'all had. Shortly after my last update, my husband went in for another CT scan and things were looking good. No growth of the bleed whatsoever so he was on a 6-hour watch until his next CT to see if he could be labeled stable again. He made it 2 hours before having another grand mal seizure, luckily only lasting 2 minutes total. They weren't sure whether to give another CT right away due to a possible cluster, so after an hour or so he went off for another CT. They also prepped the helicopter in case it was needed to fly him to the bigger city an hour away so that he could get surgery there, as the hospital we were at wasn't equipped for that. Turns out that the seizure opened the hole and now the bleed was fucking massive. It had reached 5.3 centimeters and was leaking towards his ventricles. My husband was somehow conscious and his eyes were open, but he definitely was not all there, and could barely speak. He did recognize me though, and he was able to remember and say our special goodbye that we say to each other before they took him off to the helicopter. I wanted to go with him, but they told me it would be better if I could drive because my weight would slow them down and they needed the space. I called bullshit but didn't want to fight them too much, and left with Kay as I am not able to drive. On the way to the city, I called my MIL to see what was going on with SIL and informed them of the situation, as I had directly been ignoring their texts for the most part because I'd been staring at my husband for hours on end. MIL freaked out and said she was already on the road and that she would be on the way to the city as well. She also informed me SIL was with her and would be coming with, who then took the phone to inform me Bil was staying in jail for DV and drug possession, as he had his daily dose of shenanigans in his pocket at the time of his arrest. Sil also let me know that she was fine and that she just needed some stitches around her eyebrow because some glass cut her face. By the time I got to the hospital in the city, my husband was already in surgery. The plan I guess was to stop the bleeding from the source itself, and try to remove some of the built-up blood because it was creating too much pressure on his brain. He had another seizure on the helicopter ride, and the bleed was even bigger, although they either never told me the size, or I didn't even soak that in at that point. But at this point, the only thing that I could do was wait out the surgery and see what would happen next. I'm no stranger to waiting for close family to hopefully survive awful and life-threatening situations and surgeries. It's like a curse that followed me since I was 4. Death follows me like the plague, and other than my husband, I only have my dad left as living family. I prayed death would take the fucking day off. My Mael got to the hospital about half an hour after Kay and I. She was in hysterics, apologizing to me and Kay, and begging the doctors to let her into the surgery room at first but then acquiescing when told it was too late to see him. I told her she needs to tone it down and she's lucky I've even let her know where he is or what's even going on considering how she's been acting, and I honestly spent a good hour sitting there tearing into this woman. I loved my Mil and felt so hurt that she left my husband high and dry to cater to a monster. I hated her for using our softer sides against us to drag us to my BL's house and into a living fucking nightmare. She listened tearfully and ate every word I dished to her. I didn't feel better afterward whatsoever. She was an absolute wreck and I could see it. Years of worry for my husband, dread and regret, sadness, and understanding, she looked very broken and it made me feel so much worse. She's helped us so much for years. She housed us for free while we struggled for work. Fed us with no questions. Gave us rides and support in all times of need. Hell, this woman taught me to crochet, which is my favorite thing to do in this world besides my husband. Insert quirky laughter here, I'm currently too tired. So when she responded to me with what she did, I honestly wasn't surprised and a little pissed at myself for not seeing it in the first place, and yelling at her as hard as I did. My Mil and my Sil have been working for the past year to get my niece adopted by my Mil behind BL's back, along with all of our backs as well because they wanted as few people to know as possible for the safety of my Sil. When my Sil overdosed a year ago, and they lost custody of my niece, I guess when she was taken away there were lots of stipulations to get her back, and while my Sil has gone through recovery and everything beautifully, my BL was uncompliant and making the process complicated for no reason. He also was completely unresponsive and still is unresponsive to all correspondences and calls from CPS, so did not know of any of the proceedings even though they sent him forms to sign. My Mil had flown them out to give them a vacation to hopefully restart their mentalities so she could get them started on a new path to life and hopefully get my BIL to become compliant, and I guess she made this decision when my BL responded by stealing her car to roam around the city to find drugs and came back, belligerent and abusive. So all the secrecy of this specific trip was because things were being finalized this week. The paperwork was signed the day of what I will call the incident, and my Mil wanted all of us to get together that night so she could break the news to my BIL and so we could hopefully celebrate. She feels horrible for what happened, and even somehow feels bad that my BL still doesn't know yet because he has the right to since he's her father. I want to be there when he's told and his brain implodes honestly. I'd die of laughter in the parking lot. I asked her why she bothered and why not report BIL sooner since she knew what was going on, and she responded that she didn't want to mess up the adoption. I told her that was extremely irresponsible and that Sil was at such a high risk, but Sil assured me that she would not have had it any other way and that things worked out perfectly. Well, other than my husband. She didn't mean that maliciously, she meant it factually. Nobody planned for my husband to decline so badly all of a sudden, which led to my Sil to go into helper mode, which made my BL jealous. According to Sil, he suspects she's cheating with my husband, which led to all of the events that unfolded until now so far. After all their explanations I honestly was just numb. Didn't know what to feel or think. I still kind of don't. I'm horrendously angry at both of them and they both admitted that it doesn't excuse their fault in this, nor is my Mil absolved from her crimes of abandoning her son in his time of need, and they've been saints since to repent, but I don't even know if I can be mad at them anymore. I know that they needed to dance around my BL, so that's understandable. I just wish they let us know. They didn't because we are usually naturally LC, so they didn't see the point in saying anything. Bad excuse, and now my husband gets to suffer for their incompetence. I told my MIL and SIL they're lucky I don't press charges against them, and they agreed that's fair and that they deserve whatever crap comes their way. 8 hours after going in, my husband came out of surgery alive, thank fuck. They supposedly closed the source of the bleed, but there was a lot more blood than was originally realized, and it created a lot of pressure. And I honestly don't care to type out all the medical bullshit they told me, but pretty much due to the scar tissue and permanent damage that was already present on my husband's optical nerves from his childhood clot/aneurysm, the pressure from the bleed created a massive strain on said optical nerves. And with the way things are, my husband is blind and will be for the time being until the inflammation from surgery and bleeding is absorbed. Hopefully. My husband opened his eyes yesterday afternoon, unable to see entirely. He previously had 1.5 eyes worth of sight, and now he has none. He only remembers getting pizza and saying goodbye to me. Everything else in between was empty space. He's having a lot of neurological issues so far obviously, and his speech is extremely slurred, but he is alive, cognitive, and has motor function. He remembers me and his mother and remembers our special words and hand hold. He is luckily still my husband so far. This is not his first time being blind, and he is surprisingly okay with it for now at least. He says it's kind of nostalgic in a way. I didn't want to worry him, but he kept asking questions, so I told him everything that had been going on from beginning to end. He fell asleep as I was telling him the story, and when he awoke later when the nurse came in to check on him, he asked for the rest. I know he needs to be resting, but my husband is the type of person who needs to know. He is an informational index that needs to constantly be fed, and it kills him to not know things and have answers withheld from him. I am so happy he is alive. MIL is extending her stay and will be staying with me in the city along with SIL, and they're paying for my hotel. Kay will be leaving in 2 days when the vacation is supposed to be over, as she can't miss work, she has a high security job. We're all waiting for news on BIL, and on the hospital that did the original surgery when my husband was a child, to see if anyone from the team might still possibly be in practice and have some insight as to where to go from here. There's a lot of personal things I left out, because this case is very rare and has this teaching hospital in a frenzy. My husband's childhood event was a rare situation, so this is something that's never happened before so far from what they told us. Little update September 27, 2024. Howdy everyone who has found this. I'm using this Reddit as a diary at this point. I love reading the comments and venting the events out to someone other than family, as my husband and I don't have friends as we're both pretty introverted. Not much to say so far other than my husband is still in the hospital and is still blind. They've contacted some of the old neurologists from his childhood but haven't gotten anywhere with research yet. The bleed hasn't grown but the swelling hasn't gone down much either. His blood pressure has been stable at least. My MIL had to go home. She was not happy about it, but she is planning to move back across the country to stay nearby rather than move my niece to her house as was the original plan before all this. She already has called a realtor to look at a house in the area as well, so she's all in on this, I guess. Therefore, she needed to go back with her partner. He has been with her the whole time since she returned with SIL from the hospital, to pack up their stuff and get things settled. I've been keeping her updated. She's been gone for 3 days so far and is due back sometime next week or so. My niece will remain at my aunt-in-law's house until she returns. My SIL is staying with me from now on. I haven't been home minus to grab some stuff for my husband, so she's been staying there to help take care of my dad. He's elderly but still mostly independent, and my cats as well. Honestly, she's been an absolute saint. Luckily her job is very flexible, so she has been able to take lots of time off for now while she helps, which I severely appreciate. Plus this all keeps her mind off of what's been going on with BAL. I don't know, I've just been working with my husband and the therapists and doctors every day, while also managing everything legally with the lawyers regarding the accident that started all this mess, and all that jazz. It's been oh so fun. I'm fine though, no need to worry about moi. I've been enjoying this time with my husband the best I can. He's still definitely suffering many neurological complications that keep changing day to day, so it's hard to tell what's going to happen next. So we're just taking everything one day at a time. Oh, and BIL's first trial was rescheduled. He tried to kill himself in holding when Sale contacted him to let him know what was going on with my husband. So they have him in some sort of mental health evaluation hold for now or something, SIL didn't explain it well and I don't feel like researching right now. He doesn't know about my niece yet either. SIL decided to wait until he's seen someone to talk to first like a therapist. I told her to just get it over with, and she's considering it. I'll post again if anything happens. Happy doom scrolling. Update. Hello everyone. This will be a long update due to the circumstances I am in. If it's too long for you, get the fuck over it because I don't really care, go read somewhere else if you're bored. Firstly, to cover some questions and concerns. I didn't originally force my husband to the hospital because he's very headstrong and unless he's completely unconscious, will fight tooth and nail to avoid doctors or anything of the sort. I am also literally half his weight and size, so physically forcing him was out of the question. People also mentioned that because I said he was previously an angry person, that he must be a shitty person as well. That is extremely untrue. I'm not going to rant about it, but my husband has never once been mean to me or anyone. He's just generally an angry person because well, life is infuriating. He's a saint that is constantly screaming in the inside. Some people were confused, and how it was illegal for Bil to not be informed of the adoption. You are indeed correct. Bil was informed, as he was apparently sent multiple letters, emails, and phone messages regarding his court date to discuss his side. He ignored every single one, and the judge deemed him uncooperative and denied him any parent privileges. Sil signed her privileges away as well, so the adoption went smoothly afterwards. All of my previous posts were made mid-situation, so any errors are just because I was ranting. There was some speak about the trauma center levels, and I only wrote what I was told in the hospital. I might have gotten things mixed up because I was bugging out. I just know that the original hospital we went to couldn't help him, so he had to be transferred to the closest better one. Also towards my reaction about the helicopter ride, I was distraught, and as the words were coming out of my mouth, I hated myself because I know better than to be a dick like that. Stress was just killing me. They were very understanding and I didn't make any fuss whatsoever. I just wanted to be with my husband. To the people who said I'm evil for writing all of this and not staying by my husband's side, well, you're right and wrong. I don't have friends. I don't really have family. I just have this cluster of people, and the internet to rely on to vent. My best friend and only person I want to spend any time with at all was not needing my stress dump, so sought out relief here. Once coming to, he loved hearing everyone's messages, and wanted me to continue to write about everything since it was something to keep your mind occupied while mine reboots according to my husband. So yes, I'm evil for not paying every attention I can to my husband, but he has enjoyed everyone's care, and even hatred, minus the people telling me to kill myself for putting him in danger. He said, fuck those people, you don't own me. I make my own damn decisions. To those who made comments towards the fact that we're idiots for not cutting off Bil sooner from our lives, I can only say you're correct, but that's actually kind of my husband's fault. He loved his little brother, as my Mil loved her son before all of this. Now I'm not so sure. They outright just didn't want to cut him off. Also due to Bil being a self-serving junkie, and them being pushovers, they were often manipulated into thinking he was getting better and clean, and then have to deal with the cleanup because they for some reason feel guilty. I don't know why and don't care about that anymore. Finally, why was I so passive throughout all of this, and why did I bring my husband to see my Mil at all, knowing how Bil is? I'm not a good person, and I know that. I am extremely weak-willed, and have been that way my whole life due to severe various abuse that I suffered as a kid, not an excuse. It's something I was told was subconsciously affecting my decisions. I don't like talking about it so I will not right now, but I will say that it's left me with some pretty severe mental issues, including severe passiveness in stress situations. I literally freeze like a deer in the headlights. Even though Bil has done me wrong, I naturally was more willing to just go with others' decisions. After I was attacked, we couldn't really go LC or NC because we lived with my husband's family at the time. We both grew up and are extremely poor, so we were all living together as a way to make ends meet, and it was situationally easier that way. Not that either Rod is like Tor, and once we got the chance to have our own place years later, we took it and went super LC. Now to the update. TLDR, I'm not that evil, I know I'm long-winded, my husband died. I am in a mental health facility due to multiple suicide attempts. SIL and MIL have moved in with my dad and are helping him for now until I get my shit together, if I do. BIL has been sentenced to 20 years for multiple different things, of which I don't give a shit about anymore. He has apparently found Jesus. It's been really hard trying to figure out how to write this, but talking with the physicians and workers here, they thought it might be alright if I at least got everything out at once, while fulfilling a guilt I have by leaving you guys hanging. They of course are reading everything I am saying to make sure I'm not saying concerning things. Hi Bill and Tasha. A week after my last update, my husband died due to the swelling in his brain. He was responding well to treatments originally, and the original bleed was no longer growing. He had no changes in his vision, and was seeming neurologically stable. Was talking and eating and joking and laughing and being him. But his brain started swelling like crazy until he seized to death in front of my eyes. They originally thought it was SUDEP until he started torrenting blood from his nose. It was all kind of sudden, and I can clearly hear him saying his last words to me in my ear over and over and over and over while watching him pretty much explode. Well, after that I originally tried to jump off the hospital roof. Got stopped by security and then spent a few days in the mental ward of the hospital until the funeral. I was released to MIL and SIL, and we went to my husband's funeral service. He was cremated and I received his ashes, and there was a really nice simple ceremony for him. He would have hated it and said it was unnecessary, but my MIL was in charge of everything. That night I left home after SIL accidentally fell asleep, she was watching me, and I jumped off this pretty large bridge in my town. Unfortunately for me someone saw me and pulled me out of the river before I fully drowned. I got sent back to hospital who sent me here to where I am now. I haven't been home in weeks. I just want to get out of here, but I now recognize that I am not sane enough to do that. I'm having auditory and visual hallucinations, and an event a few days ago woke me up a bit to that fact. I reached out to my SIL to apologize for being selfish and running away while she was watching me, but she was just glad I was okay. Her and MIL have been over every day this week to keep me company, only recently can have visitors. MIL isn't handling my husband's death well either, but she's seeing a therapist and is much saner than I so far. I don't remember most of the time between now and my husband's death, it's been completely shut off by my brain or something. I am still definitely not okay, and this is all definitely my fault, but don't tell Bill and Tasha I said that please. Still trying to work on the guilts. Bill has apparently found Jesus after trying to kill himself in holding, and in court he apparently thanked the judge for giving him 20 years. I don't know if it's an angle to get out sooner, but whatever. He's apparently gone full priest about it and everything. I honestly can't care right now. I know I'm evil. I know I'm selfish. I feel bad for leaving my dad and cats behind, but I can't be without my husband. Not after everything I've done wrong in life. I have to tell him sorry. Grief sucks, don't worry guys. No point in reporting me considering where I am and who's reading. Which by the way fuck this system, oh you want to die and be left alone. Guess who gets to have literally no privacy whatsoever even to fucking PEE and co, sorry, rant over. So yeah, that's the sitch so far. We'll see how things go. If I'll post again in the future, but if I can respond to people's comments at a later time, I will. Depends on what I'm allowed to do and my own decisions going forward. Adulting is impossible when your world is gone. Stories number 11. Am I the asshole for calling my father's wife a creep? My 32F father, 60s, has been married to Sasha, fake name, 40s, for almost a decade. I was already an adult when they started seeing each other, so I never had much of a relationship with her. That said, Sasha was nice and thoughtful, though a bit annoying at times, and I never had any problems with her. I now have a husband, 34M, and 2 kids, 9M and 4F. Sasha is very fond of my children, especially my daughter. That became very suffocating pretty quickly, so we started setting some boundaries. She never overstepped them. In January, my father and Sasha decided to go on a trip to Disney World, and invited us to join them. We decided to go to celebrate our son's 9th birthday. I quickly regretted coming along. Sasha spent the entire trip fussing over my daughter in ways that overstepped almost every boundary we'd set. Examples include, Sasha bought a mini ears tiara. She wanted me to buy my daughter an identical one so they could match. My daughter didn't like the tiara, so I bought her a Donald Duck hat instead. Sasha got her the tiara anyway, and was upset that she didn't want to wear it. My father and Sasha went shopping in between parks. I told them not to buy my kids anything, as we still had shopping to do and didn't want to risk making our bags too heavy. Still, Sasha returned with 5 bags of clothing for my daughter, and 2 for my son, saying she couldn't resist it. My daughter wanted a Belle costume to wear at the parks, as that's her favorite princess. Sasha tried to convince us to get her an Ariel costume instead, because that's her favorite. I explained that we never watched The Little Mermaid at home because my daughter is scared of Ursula. Sasha insisted on taking dozens of pictures with my daughter in front of the castle at Magic Kingdom. She also took some with my son, but not nearly as many. She tried to convince us to take our daughter to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. We refused because the prices are crazy and we'd already bought her the Belle costume. She offered to pay, but we held our ground. I later found out Sasha tried to make a reservation anyway, but there was no availability. When we took our daughter to Slinky Dog Dash, her first roller coaster, Sasha tried to sit next to her. My daughter wanted to sit with me, so we switched. She tried to do the same thing in other attractions. At the Muppets Theater, she tried to get my daughter to sit in her lap. Sasha also tried to pick her up while we met some of the characters. There were more instances. The final straw for me, however, was the last park day of the trip. We were at Magic Kingdom. My husband suffered a minor injury and I had to take him to the first aid station. The kids wanted to go to the Peter Pan ride, so my dad and Sasha offered to take them in the meantime. However, according to my father, the line was too long. So instead, Sasha suggested the Little Mermaid ride, assuring my kids Ursula wasn't on it. Actually, there's a pretty big Ursula animatronic there. My daughter was still sobbing and hugging her brother when we reunited. When we flew back home, I told my father that we'd no longer take our children on trips with Sasha due to her behavior. He got extremely angry. He said his wife loved my kids, thought about what they'd like to do at every moment of the trip, and that we should be grateful to have her in our lives. I lost my temper at that. I told him Sasha was a fucking creep, and that they should be grateful I was still okay with them even seeing my children after her actions during the trip. We ended up having a huge fight after that. It's been weeks since we returned home, and my father is still angry at me and my husband. Sasha has texted me a few times. She says she's sorry if she made me uncomfortable, but that she loves my kids and hoped to use the trip to spend more time with them. To be honest, I don't think I'm the here. But I do think I might have overreacted. I believe there's a chance Sasha's actions were motivated by love and she truly did have good intentions. Update. Hey, everyone. I'm ready to give you an update. I read your comments and came to the following conclusion. As much as Sasha's behavior towards my children angered me and freaked me out, calling her a creep was the wrong reaction to have. That said, I think it's best for my family to distance itself from Sasha for the time being. And at the very least, my previous decision to avoid future trips with her based on the Disney trip is still the best course of action. Sasha's pushiness, tendency to override my and my husband's parenting and blatant favoritism towards my daughter were much worse when the kids were younger. After my daughter's birth, she began to focus too much attention on her and almost none on my son. I gave more examples of that in the comments on my original post. That's the reason we set boundaries in the first place. Her fixation on my daughter also bothers me. When we had the boundary conversation with my father and Sasha, she told us that she'd always wondered what having a daughter would be like. She'd also defined herself as child-free before, so I was never certain what to think of that. Either way, that reassured me and my husband that we were doing the best for our kids. Those boundaries had never been overstepped. Then we went on the Disney trip, and most of them were completely ignored. Many of you pointed out that she might have gotten carried away, or that Disney is exciting and she wanted to make sure my kids had the best experience, etc. There are two things I'll say to that. The first is that whatever Sasha's reasons were, she still overstepped our boundaries. When we first set those, we told her that doing so would have consequences. Disney or not, I don't see a reason to make an exception. Secondly, she wasn't trying to ensure my kids had the best experience. She was pushing them to fulfill her fantasy of what their Disney trip should look like. She repeatedly ignored my children's wishes in favor of her own, despite them both being very clear about what they wanted and didn't want. Sasha also continually favored my daughter, including during my son's birthday, and fussed over her in ways that made her uncomfortable. And I still haven't forgiven the Little Mermaid thing. My daughter is a bit shy and takes a while to open up to most people, so knowing her trust was broken like that angers me in ways I can't describe. To put it in simpler terms, my children aren't props. And whoever treats them as such will, at the very least, be put in time out. I called my father and Sasha on Saturday. I apologized for calling Sasha a creep, but told them that we needed some time apart. They won't see my family until my younger sister's birthday in late April. If that goes well, they'll be invited to my daughter's 5th birthday party in May. After that, we'll slowly work on re-establishing contact. I also said that if they overstepped our boundaries again, the consequences would be more dire. My father didn't take it well. I don't care. Sasha sent me a text with more apologies, followed by a request to at least FaceTime my kids every now and then. I said no. And to those who said my controlling behavior ruined the trip, my kids had an amazing time at Disney World. They're both still talking about it. My daughter keeps asking us to put her pictures with the characters she met up on the wall, and my son says he had the best birthday ever. I think that's it. Thank you for your advice and support on my first post. Update 2. Last time I posted here, I mentioned that my father and Sasha wouldn't see my children until my younger sister's birthday. The party took place last weekend, and we didn't attend. These 2 months of NC worked fine, but not great. My father respected my wishes, to my surprise, but Sasha kept trying to find ways to talk to my children. She'd call me under the guise of needing to ask me something, only to later say, by the way, are the kids around? I want to say hi. Every time she tried that, I'd remind her of what I'd told her back in March. This must have happened almost a dozen times, which was enough for my husband and I to start debating on skipping the party. After speaking to our kids, we decided not to go. They both said they missed my father, but clearly didn't want to see Sasha. We thought about attending and just distancing them from her while there, but risking making our children uncomfortable wasn't worth it. My son even asked if we could see their aunt somewhere else, without Sasha around. My husband and I explained the situation to my sister. She was upset, but mostly because she hadn't seen the kids in a while. We all went to dinner at her favorite restaurant the day after her party. I also called my father and told him we wouldn't go to the birthday party. He reacted better than I expected, but we still had a short fight about it. He claimed that I had promised we'd let Sasha see the kids after 2 months, called me unfair and said he was entitled to have a relationship with his grandchildren. I immediately denied that. Though I tried to sugarcoat it at first, I eventually gave him the truth. My kids don't want to see his wife, and I won't force them to. My father and I had a long talk. I told him how much Sasha's actions at the Disney trip upset my children, as well as how uncomfortable me and my husband felt. I admitted I don't trust his wife at all, and I don't think I ever truly will. He said that while he still thought I was overreacting, he understood I wanted to protect my kids. My dad also told me about how these 2 months of NC were for them. Apparently, Sasha started talking about my kids, mostly my daughter, a lot more than usual. She'd mention things and places she thought they would like. My father was aware of one of the times she called me, but thought it was a one-time thing. She wanted to give my daughter a gift at my sister's birthday party. He said he didn't know why. At one point, she told him she wanted to plan another family vacation with the kids, even though I told them they're not traveling with Sasha anymore. Learning all of that just made me more certain that I can't trust this woman around my children. For now, I intend to remain LC with my father and NC with Sasha. My daughter told me she wanted her grandpa at her birthday party a few weeks from now, so I told him that he was invited, but Sasha wasn't. He agreed. To be honest, I don't trust my father after all of this. I'm allowing him to come because that party will take place at my home, which is easier for me to control. If he tries to bring Sasha, they'll both be kicked out, and it will take a long time for me to consider letting him near my kids again. My father hasn't told me how his wife is reacting to this. My sister told me that during her party, Sasha asked her to tell me she wanted to talk. I'm not reaching out to her, nor do I plan to respond if she attempts to contact me. Both me and my husband have blocked her. My children are doing great. They still talk about how much fun they had at Disney. My daughter's been saving money, putting coins in her piggy bank, for us to go back. On a completely different note, I'm pregnant again. This was completely unplanned. I always said I wanted 2 kids at most, and the third would have to be a huge accident, but my husband and I are ecstatic. I'm still in the first trimester, so not a lot of people know. We're brainstorming ways to tell our kids. Overall, I'm happy with my life right now. And as much as I wish this Sasha situation had never happened, I feel like a better parent after dealing with it. I have never been more confident in my abilities to protect my children than I am now. I don't think I'll update again anytime soon. Once again, thank you for all the support you've given me. I wish you the best. Update. First of all, my father didn't bring Sasha to my daughter's birthday party back in May. I didn't really think he would. I'd made it very clear I wouldn't tolerate that, but I'd be lying if I said your comments didn't make me a little paranoid. Secondly, I've just entered my third trimester, and the baby will be here in November. The kids are ecstatic. I'm having another girl, but my husband and I are not sharing the sex until she's born. This has nothing to do with our families, it's just something we've also done with our first two. Everyone, including Sasha, knows I'm pregnant. We announced it a couple months ago. I had no problem with my father telling her, though he did ask if he could. I didn't hear much about her reaction, but according to my father, she was happy for me. My children still don't want to see Sasha, and I'm still not forcing them to. I've unblocked her and put her on mute instead, but she hasn't made any attempts to contact me. We've continued meeting my father without his wife, and I think it's been working out. My relationship with him isn't fantastic, but it's much better than it was earlier this year. Last week, I saw Sasha for the first time in months. My cousin threw a party at her place. My husband and I attended, as did my father and Sasha. I knew she'd be there, but since the kids weren't with us, son had a sleepover, daughter stayed with my mom, I didn't really have anything against seeing her. They arrived some time after we did. My husband and I spoke with them for a few minutes, and it was less awkward than I expected. Sasha asked me about the baby's sex, and I told her we weren't telling anyone, which, again, is what we've always done. About 20 minutes later, my father told me they had to go. I thought it was weird that they were leaving so soon, but I didn't think much of it at the time. He called me a few days ago, and we spoke for a long time. My father is difficult to talk to, so the following is what I gathered from the conversation. He said they left early because Sasha was holding back tears after she saw me. She was sobbing by the time they got to the car. They later had a discussion about it, and Sasha admitted she wanted kids. She married my dad knowing he didn't, but hoped he would change his mind. Apparently, when my son was born, Sasha tried to drop "I want one" hints to my father. He didn't notice it, so she gave up. According to my father, Sasha told him she loved my kids equally, but my daughter was special, because she always imagined herself as a girl mom. That's also the reason why she became such a suffocating presence when my daughter was a baby. When my husband and I started setting boundaries, Sasha realized she was overstepping and agreed to abide by them. To her credit, I think she did a mostly okay job back then, but the favoritism was still obvious enough that my son noticed it. The trip we took was a turning point because Sasha's dream of having a daughter included taking her to Disney World and having her do all the things she liked to do there when she was young. She told my father that having my daughter there was so exciting that she forgot everything I'd said about not overstepping. Sasha wanted a mother-daughter trip, and tried to use my child for it. Sasha said she regretted her actions during the Disney trip, but only because she lost access to my children due to them. And seeing me at the party, all pregnant and pretty, my father's words, not sure she actually said that, was what drove her over the edge. I remember reading some comments theorizing that this was what was going on, but I still didn't really expect this. My father said he was telling me all this because his wife wasn't doing well, and he'd understand if I wanted to keep my kids away from her. Didn't expect that, either. I don't know what the future of their relationship will be, and I don't think my father does either. All I know is that if Sasha still wants to have kids, it almost definitely will not be with my father. Before all this, I was pondering about my third child's future in relation to Sasha. Now, I sincerely don't want her to be a part of my baby's life. This isn't a final decision, but I've been speaking to my husband about it, and he agrees with me. I don't think she's a bad person. I got some baby stealer comments on my previous update, but I don't think that's what's happening here, either. But if the Disney trip proved anything to me, it's that Sasha is willing to be extremely selfish and disrespectful to get what she wants, even when my kids are involved. A couple months ago, my husband and I had a conversation with our son about the subject. He told us he dislikes Sasha for 2 reasons: she favors his sister and she doesn't listen to them. Honestly, that's all I need to know. Looking back at my own childhood, I feel like I was never allowed to have boundaries. I was always expected to put my schedules and preferences aside for others. It's important to me that my children don't go through that. If they don't want to see Sasha, they don't have to. I think that's all I want to say here. I'm doing well. I actually got some great news from work recently. My kids are thriving, and I'm excited to meet my third baby. Again, thank you guys. Update 3. I'm happy to announce my daughter was born 2 weeks ago. She arrived a little earlier than expected, but she's perfect. My older kids are in love with their baby sister. And as much as I didn't plan to have a third child, I am truly glad I did. As I mentioned last time I posted, my husband and I didn't announce the sex in advance when our first 2 kids were born. This time, I decided to give my father a heads up. After I found out about the whole girl mom thing, I became worried about how Sasha would react to the news I was having another daughter. Telling my father ahead of her birth would give him more time to prepare. So about a month ago, my father told Sasha I was having another girl. As expected, she didn't take it well. A few days after I gave birth, my father told me that he and Sasha were separating. They're not sure about divorce, but he thinks that's where they're headed. Sasha started talking to my father about having children around the time I made my last post. According to him, they started fighting about it when she tried to convince him to get his vasectomy reversed. I didn't know he had one. My father said Sasha cried when he told her I'd have another daughter, and they decided to separate a few days later. I'm not very informed about the situation, but my father did state that the decision was mutual. About a week ago, Sasha texted me. It started with her congratulating me for my daughter's birth, then evolved into what seemed like a farewell letter to my children. Not much about them stood out to me, though "you'll never understand the love I feel for your children" was an interesting statement. She talked about how much it hurt to know she'd never meet my baby, or watch my daughter become a big sister. Sasha told me I had tortured her by keeping my kids away, and it was that distance that made her accept she needed to be a mother. She deleted the text a few minutes after I finished reading it. I decided not to reply. I haven't been thinking much about the situation lately, but the more I do, the dumber I feel for not realizing Sasha wanted kids sooner. I remember she started talking about my father's future grandchildren long before I got pregnant with my son. Her behavior around my daughter, at least before the Disney trip, always felt weird to me, but I still never made the connection. I still don't dislike Sasha, but I think she brought this situation upon herself. As much as I recognize my father is far from innocent, he's always been very clear about not wanting more children. Sasha is 47 years old, and while I don't think I'd want to have kids at that age, I know people who have. If that's what she wants, then I wish her luck. We're also officially moving to Europe in 2025. The work-related news I mentioned in my previous update were really, really great. My husband and I have been hoping for an opportunity like this for a while. We're helping the kids make arrangements to maintain contact with their friends. Luckily, my daughter's best friend is my goddaughter. This will be my last update. I'm busy with my baby, and I'll definitely have a busy 2025 as well, so I don't intend to write about this anymore. I want to thank you all for the advice, reassurance, and kindness you have shown me. Happy holidays. Stories number 12. Am I the asshole for missing my pregnant sister's wedding? Hey, I, 30M, just missed my pregnant sister's, 38F, wedding ceremony, but let me start from the beginning. Last week, my wife got really sick with a high fever, reaching 40 degrees Celsius per 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The doctor diagnosed her with possible pneumonia and prescribed antibiotics. The wedding was scheduled for Friday, and luckily, my wife's fever started to go down on Thursday after lasting 6 days. I never saw my wife so sick. Unfortunately, during the week, my wife also infected her mother, and I ended up infecting a coworker on Thursday. I decided I couldn't attend the wedding, even alone, because I didn't want to risk exposing my sister, especially since she's pregnant. I informed my sister on Wednesday about the situation and told her we wouldn't be able to attend. She lives abroad, so it wasn't just a local trip. Her only response at the time was a curt, "Wish you health." The day after the wedding, she sent me a long message. She said that I could have made it work if I truly wanted to, suggesting I could have attended the ceremony standing in the back and skipped the supper. She also said my explanation felt dismissive and insincere. She added that after changing her last name, she felt cleansed and no longer trusted me or my wife, claiming it was naive of her to trust us in the first place. While I completely understand why she's mad at me, I was supposed to take some pictures for her too. I don't understand why she would disregard our concerns for her health and safety. Pregnant women can't take most medications, and she had struggled to conceive before this pregnancy, having tried twice without success. I felt it was irresponsible to risk infecting her, especially with something as serious as pneumonia. To provide more context, my family has always struggled with relationships. My sister doesn't talk to our father, and he wasn't even told about the wedding. As for my relationship with her, she left our country years ago, and we've maintained moderate contact via WhatsApp. When my wife and I had our wedding this summer, my sister attended but wasn't drinking. She said she was on antibiotics, but in reality, she was pregnant. She didn't want to tell me because she was afraid it might not work out again. I later learned through third party about her past stillbirth, but I was hurt that she didn't confide in me about it. Even when we visited her earlier this year, she didn't mention her pregnancy. She finally told me about it 2 months ago because she needed help gathering some documents for her wedding. She described the ceremony as a formality and said she would organize a bigger celebration after the baby's birth. I thought I acted in good faith, but now my sister says otherwise. Even if I hadn't infected her, what if I got sick with pneumonia while abroad? Stories number 13. My boyfriend asked if we were at a place in our relationship to fart in front of each other, and I regret saying yes. I, 27F, have been saying my, 28M, boyfriend for 2 years now. When we were about 3 months into our relationship, he said something like, "Hey, how soon do until we are comfortable to fart in front of one another?" My response was, I mean, it's a normal bodily function, so there should be no shame around it. And it wasn't an issue. Sometimes when we would lay down and relax, he would fart here and there, but no big deal. I personally don't really let loose in front of anyone, and I also just don't think I fart a lot unless there's something wrong with the food I ate. Here comes my issue. About 6 months ago we moved in together, and honestly it has been an overall amazing experience except his farting. I feel bad even typing this out, but it has gotten ridiculous. Every time we relax and watch a movie or show, he is farting the entire time. I'm not talking 1 or 2, I'm talking like at least 8 to 10 in a 45-minute episode. It really bothers me, and when I said, "Hey, I don't think this is normal. I think there's something wrong with the food you're eating," he gets defensive and says it's normal and I'm the weird one for not farting as much as he does. I am really just looking for advice on what to do. I don't want to be rude or passive-aggressive about it, but my tolerance is getting low. We can't relax without him farting the whole time, and it's ridiculous. Stories number 14. 31M doesn't want to marry 27F after having a baby. How can we understand each other? Hi, I, 27F, feel like a crazy desperate single woman, and it is driving my BF, 31M, nuts. I am starting to believe I am acting like a dumbass. So, first of all, some context. We've been in relationship for more than 6 years, and have known each other even before starting dating. We come from pretty similar financial backgrounds, not having rich parents, estates or anything. Last few years we were talking about living together, starting a family, getting married, etc. I've always wanted to get married, dreamt about a romantic proposal, not because of me craving big fancy and pricey ring and wedding with 500 guests, but for the sake of family life, marrying someone I love, having the memory I could share with other generations, and mainly because of its practicality, having the same surname for medical checkups, documents, etc. We shared those thoughts and were pretty much on the same boat. After 3 years we started living together and talking about taking the next step. We had many discussions, and I was still repeating that we should try for a child after possibly getting married. Well, many of our mutual friends at that time started sharing with us their unsuccessful journey of trying to conceive. So, witnessing that, we declared we don't want to waste any time and start trying for a baby. Despite not wanting at first, I agreed on the baby having his surname after being born. It made him happy, and he assured me that the proposal and wedding will come. We were making jokes about it. I was showing him some things I liked. Last year we welcomed our first child. Our financial situation could be described as not great, not terrible. I truly admire the way he takes care of us, but every time I go to the doctor with the baby, I feel like an absolute idiot. I am repeatedly being called by my BF's surname, thinking we are married, and then there is a lot of embarrassing apologizing, exactly what I've always feared. Unfortunately, this happens very often, and sometimes, they don't even recognize me as baby's mother and think I am its aunt. Ouch. This week it happened again, and this time even my BF witnessed that. So, after having enough of these situations, I brought up the topic of marriage again. It sounds terrible, but I also lowered my romantic standards to bare minimum and told my BF he doesn't have to buy an engagement ring of any kind, and we can have the cheapest wedding possible without any people, just for the sake of me having the same freaking surname and him and the child. He told me I should rather take care of finishing my studies and stop babbling about marriage. Well, now he is angry and thinks I am pushing him into getting married. I feel betrayed and misunderstood, because I don't feel I am part of my baby's family. Tomorrow, I want to apologize, but I would also like him to see it from my point of view. Stories number 15. Am I overreacting over my husband inviting an associate pastor over while I was out of town, then deleting the ring footage, call and texts about it? My 38F husband, 42M, and I had a tragedy involving one of our children last year. We moved to an area where we'd hoped for support and stability for ourselves and our other kids while we all healed. The church in this area was a particular draw as we'd been previous members. To make a long story short, everyone got what we'd hoped for but me. Kids are doing well in school, I worked hard to get them social circles through extracurriculars. Husband has weekly pickleball with close coworkers. I'd hoped the church would be my social hub. I didn't know, but it apparently had a policy of splitting support strictly between men supporting men, and woman leaders supporting women. I get it. Emotional issues, propriety. Except that the women in leadership there kind of suck. It gave me the ick. I felt pushed to divulge more than I was comfortable with on details in the first meet-up and then there was no follow-up. It felt like I'd been gutted then just left holding my entrails. But the male social side of the church, I guess is awesome. My husband got bi-monthly phone calls/texts, checkups from different people every couple week. Invites to meet up at a bar to chat, watch the game, wings. I was supportive of this every time. I want him to have friends and support. I felt the sting, because of course I want that for myself too, but I wasn't jealous or envious. More just hurt by the women for failing me, so I switched churches and tried to make friends as best I could. It was the worst year of my life and the loneliest I've ever been. I wasn't okay. Unbeknownst to me, my husband spoke disparagingly about me to all of our local mutual couple friends and his extended family about how I was doing. Some of the things he said were exaggerations, others were flat-out lies. I concede, I wasn't doing well. Depressed, anxiety, but I was in therapy weekly and trying my hardest. Medicated. I found out about what he really thought of me, apparently, when I drove his car one day and it picked up some texts in our driveway. I scrolled through just shocked. I had no idea. Everyone was talking like they were expecting us to divorce. His dad was giving him explicit advice and side money. Not small amounts. I confronted him and was like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's get divorced then, because you shouldn't settle. This trash knows how to take itself out. He freaked out. I don't get it, but he's desperate for us to stay together now. I don't know. It's been really tense. We fight a lot, but one thing he is adamant on, he will not walk back any of the statements he made to anyone about me. As a result, his entire extended family stopped speaking to me, they only speak to him, and many of our local friends followed suit. Couple tense months go by, I'm better now. I went away for a work trip weekend. On return I accidentally put on his Apple Watch and saw someone texted the Friday I was gone saying they wouldn't wake the kids up but were at the front door to be let in. He texted back he'd be right down. I confronted him, it was an associate pastor from his church visiting to check on him. I asked to see the ring footage, he had preemptively deleted it. I asked to see the texts from his phone for context, he deleted those and emptied the trash as well. Not being an idiot, I went as far as to pay to look up the number. It truly does belong to the pastor. I asked why he didn't say anything and was obviously trying to hide this. He said he wasn't speaking poorly about me, but he didn't want me to be heard about all the support he was getting. I guess. To be clear, anyone from that church is always welcome in our home. I would have 0% problem with it. It's healthy for him. I'm just really fucking confused about the lies and cover-ups. And I can't really ask anyone about it without sounding like a psycho. Who the fuck would have a problem with a pastor visiting a grieving father while he was alone for the weekend? My problem is with his cover-up. I had trust issues before and now this is like, next level. I asked him to stay at a hotel for a week and that I wanted a trial separation. He's absolutely desperate not to lose me. Crying, says he can't eat or sleep at the hotel. I don't fucking get it. Am I overreacting thinking this is divorce territory? Stories number 16. Husband asked coworker for nudes. I, 30F, found out my husband, but then boyfriend, 32M, was asking a coworker for nudes. This happened 2 years ago, just before he proposed to me, but I just found out. We also just had a baby 3 months ago. Anyways, this girl was 22F, and everything opposite of me looks wise. They both swear nothing physical happened, but did go out to beers a couple times without me knowing. From a man's perspective, WTF should I do? Do you think he fully cheated or had pre-proposal jitters? Edit TOADD, yes, she did send him the photos. We were together for 5 years at the time. He said he ended it with her shortly after because he realized it was stupid. Stories number 17. I'm so scared to bring my daughter to a doctor in our state. I'm not sure if this post will go through, but I need advice. My 15-year-old daughter is about 8 weeks pregnant. The baby's father could be her ex-boyfriend, who's her age, or a 22-year-old man she won't name. She's protecting him, but I'm fairly certain it's the older man based on phone records and his social media, which links him to one of her friends. I want to press charges against him for statutory rape, but I'm hesitant because of my state's strict abortion laws. While there's an exception for rape, I'm worried a judge might not allow her to terminate the pregnancy without definitive proof of paternity. My daughter is still undecided about whether to keep the baby or seek an abortion, and I want her to have all options available. To protect her, I've been driving 4 hours to an out-of-state OBGYN because I don't trust local doctors to prioritize her life if complications arise, especially under these laws. My questions are, am I overreacting by waiting to press charges until she's made a firm decision around her pregnancy? If the 22-year-old is the father, could he or his family claim parental rights despite his crime? Sorry if this is scattered, my mind is overwhelmed. Edit. I guess I forgot some context, but as of now she wants to keep the baby, but as of recently she's been opening up to the possibility of terminating the pregnancy. Which is why I asked the second question of could that 22-year-old have parental rights? Because that's something that will influence her decision to not want to keep the baby. I don't want to strong-arm her and force her to have an abortion even though that's what I want. I still know how emotional an abortion can be. Stories number 18. Would I be the asshole for not sharing my inheritance with my mom? Hi Reddit, I need your advice on this. And English isn't my first language, so sorry for the errors. So a couple of months ago my dad died, so now it's just me, 19F, and my mom. We recently got the will and inheritance. Basically, everything is split 50-50ths, the house, car and money. I've picked up a job to help with bills and take some of the stress off my mom and pay everything from the funeral and other expenses. My mom and I got to talking when I saw a sum of money suddenly on my bank account and figured it was from the inheritance. I told her and she said I could now pay off everything with my share of the inheritance, so all the costs from the funeral, taxes and an electric bike we bought instead of ending the lease since it was in my dad's name. I told her I thought we would do that together and that I would have 1/10 or less left of the inheritance otherwise, mind you. I'm paying for my own college education. She got mad at me and called me spoiled. I was calm and wasn't expecting this at all. I already took money out of my savings to buy the electric bike and I told her so and that she promised she would pay me back. But now she's saying the inheritance has played me back. It's all so stressful and I don't know what to do and if I would be the if I don't want to use most of my inheritance to pay off everything. She's already buying some small luxury items for herself with the inheritance, but she denies this. Like expensive perfume, new expensive shoes, etc. So would I be the if I didn't share my inheritance with her? Stories number 19. I lost all of my and my husband's money. I am 29. I have a decent job but my husband lost his job. He has been actively searching but the market is very bad. We were very desperate for money and I came across a trading platform on Instagram which I thought would be legit. I know I'm stupid. Long story short, I lost 22k to it. All the money that we could afford and some more. My husband has been very supportive but I feel like shit. I can't sleep at nights and I'm getting really scary thoughts. The guilt is going to kill me, I feel. How do people ever get over money losses? Or do they ever? Any advice on what I can do? Edit. I really did not expect to get so many comments. Thank you to everyone who reached out with a kind word. Yes, I am planning to work weekends and nights and make back the money. I won't put any financial strain on my husband. And yes, I will seek out professional help because I definitely need to come out of this for my husband's sake at least. To people calling me stupid. Y'all are right. I am stupid and I should have never fallen for such a stupid scheme. I don't know what came over me. But I've learned now. No more get-rich-quick kinda schemes or even trading or whatever. Stories number 20. I left a friend that I used to be very close with out in the rain. This is going to be very rant and unorganized, so be prepared. If you find the title misleading, I'm sorry. For context, we met each other in school by chance. We were seated next to each other for an exam. I don't think we have ever talked to each other up until that moment. She gave me her Instagram and we started talking. She's by far the most thoughtful, beautiful, hardworking, smart person I have ever met. She has the most gorgeous lips and the sweetest voice ever. I started developing feelings for her, but I didn't say anything. With time, stuff happened and we fell out. We stopped talking with each other, and I will be honest, it is completely my fault. I treated her like she was nothing when she gave me her all. Answering her after an entire day for no fucking reason. Not responding and leaving her undelivered when she was telling me about something very deep and personal. Acting like I didn't see her every time I walked past her in school. These are just some of the shit that I did. And for whatever fucking reason I only did that to her. Just her. No one I have ever met before I had ever treated this way. I go out of my way to help others, care more about others than myself, but when it came to her I was. Fuck. I know I liked her, no, that's an understatement. I loved her, I was obsessed with her, I always thought about her, I wanted and wished nothing more than the best for her, yet I treated her like shit. Until this day I have no idea why. After school ended it became dead silent between us, but I still thought about her on a daily basis until it became unbearable, and so I decided to send her a 2-paragraph long message basically pouring my heart out to her. She rightfully so blocked me without replying. Fast forward 1.5 months later, which is today. I went to the hospital for something, and when I left it was pouring outside. I don't think it had rained that much all year long. I was wearing a hoodie, a coat and headphones on my ears. I stopped at the beginning of a crosswalk and waited for the light to turn green. I saw someone in the corner of my eye and then proceeded to look at them. It was her. These lips can't be mistaken. She looked straight at me. I looked away and acted like I haven't seen her. Headphones still on. Maybe she said something. I will never know. We both stood there until the light turned green. Then we both crossed and I stopped by another crosswalk while she kept going. The worst part is that she had almost nothing on. She was holding her jacket on top of her head to protect herself from the rain. I could have done something, any fucking thing. I had a hoodie and a coat on, I could have taken off the coat, give it to her, then cover my head with the hoodie. Fuck it, even a simple hi would have been better than what I did. I fucking hate myself, I hate myself, I hate my fucking self, I'm a piece of shit. I hope one day she will get everything she had ever wanted. Accomplish all her dreams and ambitions. She deserves the whole world. Thank you for reading this far. Stories number 21. Update: am I the asshole for not driving my stepdaughter to the bus stop? TW, mentions of SA and abuse. I posted here a few days ago and I felt I had too much to add to the original post. First off, thank you Redditors for opening my eyes to my situation. If I could take the 5-year-old with me I would have left a long time ago. I should have left when he didn't get a job, forcing me to work 12 hours while 9 months pregnant. I worked 12 hours the day before I was induced. I should have left when he got us evicted from his mother's house with a newborn. I can name even more times I should have left. Truth is, I have a history of abusive exes. I know how to pick them, and I thought because my current BF doesn't beat me then he's good. He doesn't SA me in my sleep like my ex did. He doesn't threaten to hurt my pets like my ex did. I thought that because he doesn't say the words, "I'm not letting you go" location, or "you can't see friend name," that he wasn't controlling. Truth is, I haven't seen my friends or family in a while because he doesn't like them or whatever other reasons he can think of. I didn't see it. I struggle with autism, anxiety, and depression. I was unmedicated during my pregnancy and I'm just now getting out of my postpartum depression. I've been working with my DR to get my medications right and clear my head more. I just started seeing a new therapist over video call. I've had one session so far and even she commented on how most of the time people's partners don't interrupt 4 times. My friend says it's a way to control me, get me out of my therapy and mess with my healing. With everything being said, I have highlighted some of his not so good behaviors. He's not like this all the time. First off, he's not starving our daughter. I wouldn't leave her alone with him if I thought he was starving her. When I said he doesn't like to feed her I meant spoon feeding her. He gives her bottles of milk, applesauce/veggie pouches, baby rice crackers, things she can feed herself. Also when I said sometimes I return from work with her in the same diaper, this isn't an everyday thing. And I don't always work 8 hours, some days are short but still unacceptable behavior. Stories number 22. Love is in the little things. I was eating dinner tonight and I called to my husband, who was still plating his in the kitchen, to bring the salt when he came through. A second later he appears with the salt and I said, I meant when you came, you didn't have to bring it now. He gave me the most beautiful smile and said, I can't make you wait for the salt while you are eating. It just warmed my heart all the way through. For me, love always shows up in the little things and it's so important not to miss it or take it for granted. Are there any little things those you love do to show they care that fill you with a warm glow? Stories number 23. One accident ruined my life, 28 years old. To give some background context, I'm a 28-year-old woman and I am awkward as fuck. I always have struggled socially my entire life. My entire family thought, and still thinks, that I am autistic but never sought to give me resources or a proper diagnosis. I was never able to make friends again after high school and made money working as an accountant for my family's business. In the years after high school I lived an extremely self-isolating life that was filled with mental health struggles. I'm talking about self-harm, suicide attempts, being admitted into a psychiatric facility multiple times across many years. I went through it all. Despite my social issues and frequent battles with severe depression, I always saw the good in other people. I had a certain childlike, optimistic resilience in me where I believed that all of my suffering was eventually going to be worth something one day. Through a dating app, I met a man whom I would eventually become engaged to. The first few months I spent with him were the happiest in my entire adult life. When I turned 25, we were set to get married. 3 years ago my fiancée and I broke up. Not long after, I was almost killed in a car accident when someone ran a red light and hit me head-on. The head injury I received left me with permanent headaches and suffering from vertigo. Sometimes it gets so bad that I need to use a cane to walk around and I'm not even 30 yet. Ever since that happened to me, I lost the optimistic and friendly parts of my personality. I never leave the house anymore. I cut myself often. I don't smile and don't talk to anyone online or in person. It's fair to say that after the accident my depression and cynicism got dialed up to 11. With the way my life has been heading these past few years, it seems like there isn't much reason to stick around anymore. I think something about the car accident changed me. It's difficult to articulate over text alone, but when you go through something like that, hearing people screaming, smelling waves of smoke and being covered in blood, it just made me see how cold and awful this world is and how none of this really matters. I don't necessarily want to die or spend my future locked away in my house endlessly numb and unwilling to live. But I can't even conceptualize what being happy means to me anymore and I truly feel lost. Stories number 24. My fiancé was a victim of sex trafficking. I've, 20M, recently got engaged to a girl, 21F, I've known for 10 years and dated for the past couple of months. I really love her and she's been through so much pain, abuse and heartbreak and I knew that with me she wouldn't have to worry or go through any more suffering. Last night she revealed to me that for one day she was a victim of sex trafficking and it went on for 8 hours that day. She cried in my arms and told me how she hated herself for it and how she felt gross and disgusting and how she couldn't live with herself after the fact. She was afraid that I would leave her and told me that I make her feel safe and I'm the only guy that truly loved her and respected her and to please don't leave. I gave her a hug and assured her that I wouldn't leave and that she meant the world to me and it's in the past and we're gonna get through it, but at the same time, it felt so disturbing just hearing the story and reminiscing on her crying to me and telling me how she hated it and tried to end her life. I love her and I'm not gonna leave as much as scary as the story was, but at the end of the day I have so much love for her and I made a promise that I was gonna be there through thick and thin. What advice can you guys give me on this situation? Stories number 25. New boomer neighbor threatens to call landlord on me. Hour later, I get a call. And it's her, calling the landlord. I am landlord. The context, I was weed whacking on the property at 11 a.m., and it was too loud. Edit, didn't think this would gain so much traction, it was meant to be nothing more than some venting. To fill in some blanks, I had met this woman once before, but it was more than 2 months ago, when she moved in. I don't blame her for not recognizing me, because when we met I was wearing business casual clothes versus yardwork clothes today. I'm also Asian, so there's that. When she called, I feigned ignorance at first and listened to her complain about the worker making all the noise too early in the day. After politely letting her know it was me, she was apologetic but didn't seem super genuine. The convo didn't extend much beyond that. Would love to have some juicy story full of escalation, but alas I've got nothing. This is the first issue I've had with this tenant. But, now she's on my watch list so to speak. Definitely not an actionable offense, but I'm hoping it's not an indicator for the future. Yes, I do most of the yard work on the property. I enjoy it, and it saves some money. Stories number 26. I didn't feel sorry for her at all, sorry. So yesterday at work during our busiest hours, an older woman lost her purse, and presumably, it was stolen. I had noticed her before it happened and she was both rude and messy. She probably lost her purse when she was sitting on our clothes while on her phone. I understand that losing your purse and everything that's in it is terrible, the way she handled it was not it. She was incredibly demanding and rude to multiple of us working there, demanding to get the manager and then demanding we call security. She was getting multiple people involved, and I was annoyed because we were also busy and stressed. I looked around for her purse but didn't find it, and called my manager to see if anybody had turned it in to lost and found, which they hadn't. I then called mall security, and when they came she complained about us and even blamed us for her purse getting stolen. It is not our job to keep track of your belongings, it's yours. If I had seen the purse, I would have turned it in, but I didn't. Her whole attitude the entire time and then her getting mad at us really made me lose all compassion for her. Stories number 27. Just found out my wife has been cheating on me for 2 years. I don't know what to do. Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and my wife, 32F, and I have been married for 6 years. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we were solid. I was wrong. Last night, I was working late, I'm an accountant, so it's tax season and you know how that goes. When I got home, she was asleep on the couch, and her phone was on the coffee table. Normally, I wouldn't even think to check it, but it buzzed with a message. The preview said, "Can't wait to see you again, babe." Last night was amazing. My heart sank. I know I shouldn't have looked, but I couldn't help it. I unlocked her phone, we know each other's passcodes, and what I found absolutely destroyed me. Texts, pictures, and even some hotel receipts from the past 2 years. She's been having an affair with one of her coworkers, a guy I've met at office parties. I woke her up and confronted her right then and there. At first, she tried to deny it, but when I showed her the messages, she broke down and admitted everything. She says she still loves me and wants to work things out, but I don't even know where to start. I feel like a fool. Like I missed all the signs. She says the affair started because she felt lonely while I was busy working so much, but how is that supposed to justify this? I was working hard for us. I've already told a couple of close friends, and they're urging me to consider divorce. I haven't told my family yet, and I don't know if I'm ready for that conversation. I'm heartbroken, furious, and just lost. I guess I'm here because I need advice. Has anyone been through something like this? Can a marriage survive infidelity, or is this the end? I don't even know if I want to try. Any thoughts or perspectives would mean the world to me. Stories number 28. Am I the asshole for getting rid of my wife's elderly cat? My wife, 23F, and I, 46M, have been married for 4 beautiful years. The second I met her, I knew I wanted to marry her. She played hard to get and made me work for it, but I finally wore her down and made her mine. When we began dating, she had this cat named Star. I felt that Star was already super old at that point and, as I don't like cats, she should just put it down. This started a major fight because she told me that 7 years old isn't considered old for a cat and she called me heartless. That was 4 years ago, so the cat is now 11. Super old and probably not worth the money for vet appointments anymore. I tried to speak to my wife about this again and she pretty much just brushed me off. I pushed a little harder and she began to cry, saying that she loves her cat and she doesn't understand why I want to get rid of it. I tried to explain to her that I don't like cats and it's super old so we should just put it out of its misery. We went to bed angry with each other and didn't speak the next day. After our day of not speaking, I decided I was done letting this cat get on between us. That night I went on Craigslist, posted pictures of the cat, and said they could get it for free. People were interested almost immediately. In the same night, I took the cat to its new owner. My wife got home from work later in the night and couldn't find her cat. She started freaking out and looking everywhere like a child. I sat her down and explained the situation. She didn't say a word to me. She got up, put some clothes in a suitcase, and left. 2 weeks later she came back with her parents and 2 brothers. They had a bunch of boxes in their hands and moving trucks outside. My wife had divorce papers in her hands. I felt a rage in my body that I never had before. I ripped those papers up and started punching the wall. No one cared how I felt though, they just walked past me and began packing her things. I wasn't letting her go without a fight, so I spent the hour and a half that it took them to pack pleading with her to reconsider. None of them even spoke to me during this encounter. They just walked in, she handed me the papers and they began to pack, all in silence. My parents and friends all say that I'm in the wrong, but I feel like they just don't understand my side of the story. So am I the asshole here? TLDR, I gave away my wife's cat and she divorced me. Stories number 29. Is it possible to adopt my friend's kid as a single guy? I had two friends who were both refugees who came over a few years back where we met and they both became my friends. They had their daughter last year. They both passed in a car accident around 2 months ago. They have no family over here and I doubt the government would send the kid back to where they came from because of why they fled. I'm just wondering, what are the chances of me adopting the kid or at least getting custody once they are out of hospital? At the moment I don't even know how she is doing and child services are being uncooperative. Additional info is that I am in my mid-30s, have the means to support a kid. They had no will at time of death. Baby is British citizen. I really don't want her growing up in the system, my best friend did and it really messed him up. Update, 6 weeks later. Thanks so much. Probably won't post anymore after this, but just want to say thanks for all the kind words and support. After a long convoluted process, I understand why. I've been given temporary guardianship. I'm getting the feeling from social services that they want to wash their hands of this. I've already had visits to my house and had a background check and whatnot performed. The kid is fine if still in hospital. Thankfully out of ICU. It really is gut-wrenching seeing this tiny little thing in so much pain and being unable to pick them up and tell them it's going to be alright. I'm going to take it slow. One step at a time. She's gonna have problems. I know that. I feel guilty kind of. I know these types of things happen every day, yet I don't care. I think like a lot of people I'm indifferent until I see it before my eyes. Her parents went through so much to have her and now, I'm also binging baby books and Reddit forums since if I'm doing this I'm going all out. Don't want to go to either extreme though, no more trauma than what she already has but not coddled. I can't change the past, and I can't help everyone. But damned if I'm gonna make this one little baby's life the best I can. I might post about this in a few years. Don't know. Anyway, so long Reddit. Stories number 30. Am I the asshole for stepping up when my little sister got her period? So I 14F and my little sister 12D have never been close. Classic sibling relationship. My mom and dad recently divorced and now my mom works a lot. Since then me and my sister, let's call her Ally, grew closer. We started talking more and hanging out and have a real relationship. So last night around 8 p.m. Ally comes into my room in tears. I could instantly tell something was off, so I asked and she said I think I started period. I comforted and told her it was going to be alright and all that jazz. I show here how to use a pad and after that I got us some hot cocoa and sat on the couch to explain all of my big sister knowledge about periods and stuff. I didn't go into full detail because I wanted to respect my mom, but I didn't want Ally to feel clueless. After that I door-dashed us some Taco Bell and we watched cheesy Hallmark movies. My mom got home around 10 and I told her what happened and she went crazy. She said I was overstepping and I should have called her and not have told Ally anything but just gave her a pad. She said I was ignoring her feelings and being ignorant. And that it was her job as a mother to explain everything to Ally. I tried to tell her I only said the basics but she just sent me to my room. I feel awful and now I'm wondering, am I the asshole? Stories number 31. I caught my twin doing something but she says it's no big deal. Okay, so I'm 15 and a female, but the one with symptoms is my twin sister who is also 15. We are fraternal if that makes a difference. She's 5 feet 5.5 inches and she was 135 pounds at the start of cross-country season when we got our physicals, but she's visibly smaller now and I don't know what she weighs anymore. For medical history, she gets migraines and has medicine for that. So we are twins and we look super similar. It's obvious we are twins, but I've always been shorter and skinnier. I was a lot smaller than her at birth and basically never caught up. LMAO. But that's the only real difference physically. She always liked being the taller one because she's 3 minutes older too. When we got our physicals in July though, she got super upset that I weighed 113 pounds and she was 135. She's also 2.5 inches taller than me though, and the doctor said our weights were totally perfect. The doctor could tell she was upset and told her not to worry about her weight because she looks beautiful and she's healthy, and she said she wasn't worried, but I could tell she was lying. And honestly, the night before we had eaten at this Greek restaurant with massive portions and it was probably poop weight. Not to be gross. But yeah, a couple days later she asked our mom to buy grapefruit. Our mom is well-meaning and overall a really good mom, but she did modeling when she was younger and she's a complete almond mom. Like she's always on a diet and talking about how fat she is when she's not. So she was super happy that Isabel wanted to eat healthier. Isabel explained this whole diet plan of only eating good foods and being super healthy. It sounded stupid to me, but I wanted to be supportive. She said she wanted to get to 125. Which her weight before was fine, but that was still pretty reasonable, so I tried to be supportive. She went unhinged. She started watching nutrition influencers on TikTok and Insta. So she started off eating this diet of grapefruit and coffee for breakfast, a salad and half a cup of dry Cheerios at lunch, and grilled chicken breast with honey mustard and grapes for dinner. After like 2 weeks of this, I found her in our closet eating an entire sleeve of Oreos and a plate of nachos and a tortilla covered in melted chocolate chips, and she was sobbing. I told her she wasn't eating enough and that's why her brain made her do that. I helped her clean up and we went for a walk and I thought she was done with the diet. But then she was searching how to prevent binges, which lead her to following this Instagram model named Caroline Dyler, or something like that. Anyway, she's a vegan, and then my sister decided this is her goal body and she's going to be vegan too. My mom was super supportive of this. Over the last 2 months the amount she's eating keeps getting less and less. Now she's living off almost exclusively fruit and honey roasted almonds and coconut yogurt, with the occasional lemon juice and olive oil salad. She told my mom she doesn't want bad food in the house. This sucks for me because I don't want to live off of rabbit food, but also I'm really worried about my sister. She's doing some really weird stuff with her food. She chews everything so long it must be paste. She uses tiny plates for everything and refuses to eat off red or yellow plates, and she spends ages arranging her food in patterns. She won't eat if she can't drink water with it. She also barely goes to stuff with our friends and me anymore, and she says it's because she's tired or has homework, but she mostly avoids things that involve eating, so I feel like that's probably what she's actually doing. Her times at cross country keep getting worse instead of better, and she looks miserable when we're running and she's so angry lately, and I'm pretty sure it's because she's hungry. I keep telling my mom I think something isn't right and she tells me jealousy is an ugly look. So this all leads us to last Friday. We were at a football game with friends, and I forgot to charge my phone. I wanted to show one of our friends the dress I was wearing for homecoming because she wasn't in the group chat, so I took my sister's phone. I opened her pictures to find the dress and there were pictures of her that she took in her underwear, but they didn't look like nudes. It was like she was trying to see how bony she was. And she looks awful. But I knew she would be embarrassed if our friend saw this, and so I closed out of photos and opened Safari to just Google the store I bought the dress at, and it opened to this forum about eating disorders. I pretended I didn't see it, I looked up the dress, and then I gave my sister her phone and tried not to act weird all night. So then in bed later I looked the site up. It's awful. It's seriously awful. It's people talking about losing weight and having competitions and posting their skinny bodies and wanting to be unhealthy. They share tips on not eating and eating less and not getting caught. I don't know what my sister's username was, I didn't have time to see so I couldn't find her profile, but no one on the site was healthy. I was crying reading it because it's freaking awful. So the next day when we were walking home from the gas station I offered her some of my bar, and she said no. I asked again and she said no, she just wanted her Celsius. And I told her I thought she needed to eat something. She flipped out at me and told me to stop being pushy and weird, and I told her I found the website. At first, she said she was researching for a school project and I was like, Izzy, what project? We have all the same classes. She got super pissed at me and she's barely been talking to me all week and said if I tell anyone she'll never talk to me again. I looked up eating disorders. I'm not trying to make this about me, but it says they can be really bad for you and make you infertile. It looks like a big deal. And not eating can kill you, right? People die of that. I've been an absolute mess for the last week thinking about this. She's ignoring me, acting like everything is fine and eating almost nothing. I'm sorry this got so long. I just don't know what to do. She told me to let it go because she's fine and just being healthier, and she'll increase her food when cross-country season is done because she can't run if she's full. But that sounds stupid. She told me everyone diets. Our mom has literally always been in a diet. Pretty much everyone in our friend group has been on a diet or tried to lose weight, and I'm overreacting. This is the only place I knew I could ask doctors about this without having to tell them who I am. Could this make my sister sick or even kill her? Is it my fault because I'm smaller and she felt bad? How can I help her? She's so angry and so mean lately, and I'm really scared for her. I don't want her to get hurt, but I also don't want her to hate me. Hi. I'm 15 and female, so is my twin sister who this is about. She wasn't eating and lost a lot of weight. She's 5 feet 5.5 inches and about 105 pounds. She lost 30 pounds in 2 months. Now she's in the hospital because she fainted, but it's been a couple days and she refuses to eat and keeps trying to pinch her fore. And the doctor said she's getting an NG tube. I had questions about everything, but I didn't want to ask them in front of her and scare her or have her doctor think I was being nosy or rude, so I wanted to ask here since last time everyone was helpful. What does an NG tube feel like? How long does it stay in? Will she be able to mess with it? Why is she just completely refusing everything now? Why doesn't she just eat? When I was researching anorexia, which is what the doctor said she has, I saw it's genetic. Does that mean I could end up like her too? How long do you stay in the hospital for anorexia? I miss her being home with me. Update post 2. Hi, this is my third post. I'm really sorry. I'm just so scared and I don't know who else to ask because hospital doctors won't tell me much. My twin sister is 15 and female. She went on this insane diet that turned into anorexia and she lost 30 pounds in 2 months. Then she fainted and got admitted to the hospital. She wouldn't eat there either, so they put a tube in her. She wouldn't drink anything, but she gets fluids in and for. So now she's just refusing to sleep. Because they can't put that in a tube, I guess. But all she does is cry and ask me the same questions over and over, like if I'm mad at her and if I love her. She had a seizure a few days back which was really scary. I don't understand why she's doing this, and I'm really scared that she's not sleeping on purpose. What happens if you don't sleep? Will you get sick? Can her doctors make her sleep? I don't understand why she keeps refusing to do basic things. She can't go to treatment until she's stable, and she says she wants to leave the hospital, but it's like she's trying to die. Update post 4. Title: How much medicine do you give patients in the hospital? Is my sister lying? My sister is in the hospital for anorexia. She's 15. She lost a lot of weight and she got a tube in her nose because she wouldn't eat. It feels like everything has gotten worse since we came here, like being in the hospital made her sicker. And it's my fault she's here because I'm the one who called an ambulance on her. But I think I caught her lying about stuff again. In her bag she has a ton of pills all in one of the pockets. I found them looking for her chapstick. I asked her about it and first she said it was Tylenol, but I told her it doesn't look like it and there's more than one kind. Then she said they are just her prescription, but she dropped the bottle and it broke, so she put them in the pocket. But here's the thing, it's different kinds. There's only one kind in a prescription, right? So she's lying. She's just not taking anything they give her and she's putting it in her bag. I thought in the hospital they only give you your medicine for the day, not the whole prescription. I don't want to tell on her if she's telling the truth and make her more mad at me and not trust me, but it feels like she's lying. I know some of the medicine is for sleeping and some is for depression. I don't know about the other one. If she's not taking it, could it hurt her? Is it worth telling them about? Update post 5. I'm a 15-year-old female. So is my twin sister, of course. She is really sick with anorexia. It started at the end of the summer and went downhill fast. She lost 30 pounds. And she's in the hospital with a tube in her nose fighting every attempt to help her. It's like she's two people. And I don't understand at all, but she said she doesn't know why she's doing it either. I've been researching anorexia to try and understand and see how I can help her, and I keep seeing articles mentioning how there's a genetic component. At first I kept thinking, that could never happen to me, but my sister thought the same thing and I don't think anyone tries to be anorexic. I skipped meals. couple days and then tried fasting for a few to see if I could understand why she's doing this, and I guess I sort of felt proud that I was able to stick with the diet, but it didn't feel so good. I would want to slowly kill myself in front of everyone I love over it. Is there a chance this could happen to me too? As in, am I at a higher risk of also ending up like her because of the genetic part? If so, is there anything I can do to prevent it? Watching her is so scary. It's not even her anymore. She's been swallowed up by the anorexia. As a side note also, is there anything I can do to help her? Update post 6. Title: Can you accidentally make yourself anorexic? I'm 15, female, 5 feet 3 inches and 104 pounds. A bit over a month ago my twin sister got diagnosed with anorexia. She's in a hospital now and getting better. I was really afraid when she got diagnosed that I would end up like that because I read it was genetic. I didn't understand at all. I've never cared about my body and I still don't. But I feel like I've been fixating on not becoming anorexic so much that I'm actually creating a problem. I went from 113 to 104 in the last month. I keep getting scared that I'm not eating enough, so then I go and eat a lot. Like panic eating to try and not undereat, and I ate so much that I feel sick and embarrassed and gross, and at first I was trying to run it off, but then I realized I could just throw it up, and I started doing that. I know it's not good, obviously. And it's super gross. But does this mean I'm accidentally making myself anorexic because of how hard I'm trying to avoid it? I don't care about my weight, I'm not trying to lose weight, but I keep losing it anyway. I'm just stuck in this cycle where I feel scared that I'm not eating enough and I suddenly need to set everything, but then after I feel so horrible and I want it gone. My mom keeps seeing that I'm eating a ton and telling me I don't have to eat for me and my sister and that I'm going to get diabetes. I feel like this isn't good, but I don't know who to ask about this because it's going to sound so stupid when my sister was literally almost dead from starving herself to ask if I have an issue. Stories number 32. Husband, 50M, has been pretending to be single at work. How should I, 50F, handle this? I, 50F, recently discovered that my husband, 50M, has been telling people at work that he's single. We've been married for over 20 years, and he worked at his last job for 15 of them. This all came to light when one of his close work friends, 28M, met one of my coworkers. When my coworker mentioned me as John's wife, his friend replied, "You mean ex-wife?" My coworker corrected him, saying, "No, his wife of many years," and the friend seemed genuinely surprised. This revelation has brought up so many feelings. How long has he been doing this? Has everyone in his life at work thought he was single all these years? I've also learned he's been implying he doesn't have access to a car, not true, and coworkers asking him questions like, "Is the mom in the son's life?" As if I'm not right here raising our child and managing everything. The truth is, I feel more like his mother than his wife. For years, I've handled all the domestic labor, cleaning, grocery shopping, managing our kids' appointments and school stuff, scheduling home repairs, and more. He contributes very little physically and emotionally but has the audacity to tell me I don't meet his emotional needs. Meanwhile, he hasn't met my emotional needs in over 2 decades. We haven't had sex in 5 years because he'd rather watch porn and use his assistance device. Years ago, he emotionally cheated on me, even making a pass at one of my friends. I stupidly forgave him at the time. Recently, I found out he bought women's clothing and jewelry with our shared credit card, claiming it was for me. But the clothes were the wrong size and style, sleeveless and petite, which I never wear, and included earrings. I don't have pierced ears. I suspect they were for someone else, possibly a former client. I asked him about it and he said it was for me for my birthday, but he can't give them to me. Know that he knows I don't have pierced ears and the clothes are for summer. My birthday is in the fall, cold weather, and these clothes were purchased in August. Over the past 5 years, I've emotionally distanced myself from him. I've even pulled back from his family, who I care about deeply, because I just can't anymore. Now that he started a new job. One idea I had was to organize a get-together with his old coworkers to celebrate his new job and casually drop, "By the way, he's been married this whole time. He spent years pretending to be single, so why not let people know the truth?" I know he wants to be single, and I'm happy to make that happen. I just want to hold him accountable for this charade before I leave. Edit/update, thanks for all of the great comments. I'm clearly have been holding on to something I know deep down I should let go of. No more excuses for me. I have some work to do. Clearly. Stories number 33. The maintenance man woke us up at 6 a.m. with hammering in the empty apartment next door, so I got even. This is second day in a row that they've done this, but it's Saturday today, my guy. I simply got up, asked my husband to be patient with me, as he's staring at me, confused, cause he saw the look on my face and knew someone was about to get it. I went to the bathroom that's adjoining the sawing and hammering. I put Baby Shark on a loop and taped my phone to the wall. The saw stopped almost immediately. We could hear them talking from one room to another, but the hammering was still happening. By 8 a.m., there was silence. 8:47 a.m. they knocked on the door and apologized for waking us up and said they hope we have a good weekend. Nothing about the music. But they are switching to pulling carpet for the day. Which is quiet. I thanked them and wished them luck. Then I went inside and stopped the music. Victory. It's small, but it's mine. Stories number 34. I'm 23F, and my boyfriend, 37M, demands a cut if my paintings get sold. Advice needed. Hi, THT and FKS fam, I've been a long-time listener and I just want to say I learned so much from your podcasts, but on to the issue. I am a freelance artist from the Philippines and let me tell you, art here barely gets importance since we are a third world country. And I completely understand given that people should prioritize necessities to live above all else, so art as a full-time job is a pain here. Well, I have been in a relationship with my BF since January 2024, we met at an art event and he messaged me after. And after a month of courting we officially became a couple. Our dates, I always insist on splitting the bill, but there comes a time where it's only him that pays and vice versa. It doesn't bother me since I make money from freelance since getting my degree July 2023. My freelance jobs, architectural layout designing, and various forms of commissioned art, pencil drawings, paintings, customized costumes, cosplaying, hair makeup, etc. And since art is our common ground, he insisted on giving me museum-wrapped canvases so I can keep creating art pieces. He has a small canvas business. At first I didn't let him give them to me for free since it's kind of costly here so I paid them, but after a while he insisted that they are free and I can just pay each if they get sold. So I agreed and considered it as help from him so I can develop my art more without spending too much given that freelancing art is not a stable field here. Fast forward to November 2024, I've finished 5 paintings, 3 pieces of 2 by 3 feet, and 2 pieces of 18 by 20 inches, and people love my style so far. And now, I am on my second art exhibit this upcoming December, and when I asked him how much is the canvas again so I can pay him if the paintings get sold, he told me the amount and I said I will pay him the exact amount when they get sold, but he then demanded that I should give him higher, that I should consider it his cut. I know he's been helping me but I don't understand why I need to give him more than agreed since if they get sold, it'll be my first. I help him with his art too, like giving his art pieces titles and descriptions for countless exhibits catalog, helping him promote his art on social media, and giving commissioned arts his way, and never did I ask for anything in return because I love him and I want to help him. I know his status in life going in this relationship, he's 37, his older sister pays for his credit card, still living with his parents, full-time artist which is not really stable as we are living in PH. He does end up with zero money once in a while, so it takes a month or few that we cannot go on dates unless I pay for us both. So I wanted to understand why he wants a higher cut more than agreed, but when it's him that gets his pieces sold, I never ask for anything. Is it wrong to feel this way? Am I being greedy given that I earn more on my freelancing jobs than his full-time artist job? For reference, he earns around $0 to $170 a month, while I earn $500 to $600. How can I tell him that I don't want to give him a higher cut since we had an agreement that I only pay him the canvas price? I am delaying talking to him since when I open about things even with the softest tone, he tends to cut me off and tells me he doesn't want to fight. He concludes that I want to fight when I attempt to communicate and just want things clear. I prioritize communication since I want to be transparent in this relationship to keep it healthy. Also, I lend him money when he needs it, from my savings account given he doesn't have one or any savings, and I never ask for interest no matter how big the money he asks for. Stories number 35. Would I be the asshole for feeling like my so is cheating or hiding something from me? This is my first time writing here and I'm so lost/confused on the whole situation. I just need some outside input to know if I'm overreacting or if my feelings are valid. Little bit of backstory, we met in the military and have known each other for 9 to 10 months. We hit things off pretty well and I have no reason not to trust him. These past couple of weeks if not months, we barely text throughout the day but FT at night for about an hour or two. We are currently doing long distance at the moment. He was previously married for 14 years and has a kid with her but now are divorced due to her cheating on him, while he was deployed. Separated in September 22 and divorced was finalized in the January 23. 22F, am currently 33 weeks pregnant with my first child, wasn't planned. My 39M, brother passed away this week and is currently with family, they live in a different state. He told me when he was leaving and when he arrived but those are the only two messages I received from him that day. He told me it was only him and his kid. I've been feeling a little uneasy these past few weeks with unsettling feelings that something is wrong. Being the female that I am went on FB and snooped through his family's pages. His sister went live and I saw him with his ex sitting on the couch. Didn't know it was her at first till I came across her account and confirmed it. Not a big deal but why didn't he tell me she was going to be there? I hadn't talked to him all day so I decided to text him. He said he was busy at his mom's and when I asked if there was anything going on or if there was something he had to tell me, he said no that nothing was going on and he promises that he's not doing anything. I then text and call him again an hour later and received nothing back from him after I made it known I knew his ex was there with him. Might sound crazy but I texted him 3x and called maybe about 10x no answer. I let it be and expect him to reply in the morning but he hasn't. He's currently ignoring me right now but possibly because he's at his brother's funeral. He wakes up early enough to text me good morning but didn't today and when I texted him I was ignored again. I'm left with my thoughts and him ignoring me doesn't help the situation out any better. Being pregnant doesn't help because we had plans set for when the baby comes in less than 2 months. I just feel betrayed and lied to. I feel like I mean nothing to him even after all the conversations and reassurance he's given me these past months. I just need to know if I'm overreacting and it's my hormones or if something is going on that I'm oblivious about. Stories number 36. I started living alone a few months ago and holy crap Friday nights are blissful. What it says above. Lived with 2 dudes before who were a couple and one of them was extremely problematic, gaslight and manipulative. Things ended on a really bad note with them after I miraculously found a beautiful, bigger and better apartment that was rent-controlled meaning I could afford it. I had a friend who was meant to move in with me but she got a last-minute scholarship offer from her dream university back home and she decided to stay. Meaning I've been living alone for over 2 months now and my god the peace is so addictive. I don't need to worry about finding pee on the toilet seat, I can be as adventurous as I want with my cooking. I love cooking Korean and Thai food. My ex-flatmate would complain about the smell, everywhere is exactly where I left it and the silence has been lovely. My Friday nights have been me being alone in my apartment with a mug of wine, Reese's peanut butter cups and a trashy reality show. Once I'm done with the wine I'll grab a sheet mask from my fridge and have a long lie in tomorrow. Seriously why do some dudes think this is a terrible life? Yeah my rent has doubled and I have to be a bit more careful with my money but I literally just need a bunch of cats and dogs and my life is complete lol. Stories number 37. Am I overreacting to my brother-in-law kissing my wife on top of the head after dinner? My wife and I have been married for 19 years and together since 2004. So my brother-in-law is a hugger. Totally cool with that. He's been married to my wife's sister for 8 years. They've had problems recently that have been reconciled. Sister-in-law kissed another guy while they were separated. Anyway, he reached out to my wife during their separation asking advice etc. No big deal. We all went out to dinner tonight and after dinner he hugs my son and goes behind my wife while she's sitting down to hug her. During the hug he gives her a kiss on top of the head and pats me on the back after. I don't believe there's any intent behind the kiss but it has bugged me pretty hard. This is the first time anything like this has happened since he has been in the family. Don't get me wrong I love the dude but this has bothered me. My wife thinks I'm overreacting. Her group chat with her friends agree with her and all her friends' husbands agree with me. What do y'all think? Edited for clarity, he's my wife's sister's husband. Stories number 38. My mother used to tell me I wouldn't find a boyfriend. Now I have one. I hate kissing on the lips. It's the texture. I hate it. I dislike most face kisses but the lips are bad, just bad. My mother means well, but has spent most of my life insisting that my hatred of kissing on the lips and avoidance of kissing on the face meant that I'd be alone. It was a sort of amusing thing to her. Childish. Like this illogical, irrational idea. I'd either grow out of it, or suffer consequences. I met someone 8 years ago. He has OCD. He hates kissing on the lips. Germs, and also the sound. He will tolerate a kiss near the cheekbone jawline, but that's it. We do a subtle sort of neck thing for greeting and affection. We've never kissed on the lips. We've never worried about it, either, and it's been freeing. We walk arm in arm everywhere, that's our PDA. My mother was surprised. Sorry, Mom. There's a hole for every peg, not just the square ones.